Hello. Oh gosh, wow. Didn't clear my throat apparently this morning. Hello everyone, I am Tacet and welcome to the Gems of War stream. So, today, we are going to be going and finishing out the most recent kingdom of Frostfire Keep. And of course, our main goal while going through Frostfire Keep will be to go and end up completing out to 500. Game plan is probably to do up to 500 this stream, and then later on we will go and tonight to go do Pure Faction 500. So that's pretty much the game plan, and yeah, start getting into it. We're already pretty far in, 270. That's almost halfway there. Technically not actually halfway there, because of course the deeper you go, the harder they get. We have been messing around with a couple teams. However, at this current moment in time, we have switched to a plus 12 magic version of a King Gobtruffle team. So using double King Gobtruffle, Mirage Queen, and the Liquid Club, the Doom Club, and just running it that way. So that's pretty much the game plan. And thank you, Elite Gaming. Yes, we have reached level 1,500 finally. So we were able to reach that milestone the other day. I believe yesterday morning stream? I believe it was yesterday morning stream, like the tail end of yesterday morning stream. Hello, Plus Play! Welcome, welcome. And actually on time today. Well, at least compared to yesterday anyways. Still a few minutes off though. But anyways, let's go grab that. Get ourselves the... What do we even need here? We probably want to cascade that. However, it's also just worth taking that. So we'll do that. Grab the other hit there. Get the other one to full mana, and he's already dead. Easy enough. He doesn't have any revive chance. And he's definitely down. Hello, Bill Warhammer. Hello, William. Hello, Elite Gaming. Hello, Plus Play. Welcome, welcome. And hello, 1 trophy per battle. Feels so weird being able to gain trophies from anything, but yeah, as of version 4.7, trophies everywhere. There are more trophies than you'll ever know what to do with all the trophies around. It's pretty nice. I think we're probably above 1,000. We haven't been above 1,000 trophies for ages, but now you could do it with, I don't want to say without even trying, but you know, the normal amount of play we do every single week, I'm pretty sure we could easily hit 1,000. Just because everything rewards it now rather than just PvP. Because prior, I would always just camp PvP like crazy. I mean, I would never camp PvP like crazy, I mean. But now, since we get it from Explorer and just our dailies and everything, it's definitely going to start adding up over time, that's for sure. Even just dailies alone probably give you... actually, I never did do the full calculation on that. But I believe doing all dailies... Well, it depends what you consider all dailies. If you count delves also into all dailies, I think it comes out to... I want to say like 50 trophies a day. It's pretty high. Let me see. Guild. What am I looking for? Did they ever fix this yet, or are they waiting till Monday? Looks like they're waiting till Monday. Hopefully they can make that fix. I haven't double-checked the forum to actually confirm if they are fixing it on Monday. I would assume so. That's what I've been assuming. When all the other things get changed over, they're going to change that over as well. But it still hasn't changed, even though the icon visually has. But yeah, actually, we just hit over 1,000. Like, literally to stream within the last several minutes. Because those few battles that we did just made us go over 1,000. Nice. But yeah, so much easier to get trophies. I think there's only one person in my entire guild below our previous trophy requirement thing. Also, we have one person with 0, though they might have just forgot. I forgot last week until like the last minute to actually donate the last little bit of guild. But anyways, let's go back to where we were. And that is Delves. And finish this place out. Oh yeah, I'm gonna start rushing, aren't I? To rush or not to rush? I don't know, what do you guys think? Should we play all of them out or just rush right towards the end on these? I normally start rushing around this time. Actually, I normally rush a little bit earlier than the part that we're at right now. I would need to go double check our sigil amount. I think we have enough to rush right now. Because if we don't, then I might still go a little bit further normally. Or maybe do it after next Valraven. Because doing it after that point would be a pretty good time to start transitioning into it. Just because then our chance of getting a Valraven right afterwards would be a lot less. However, if we start now, we could potentially pass one of those Valravens. But if we already have enough sigils, that won't really matter as much. Yeah, there are writs today. I did notice that. You can get 10 writs whenever you get an ultra rare task. And we do have that today. It's the first time we've ever had a writs task. It's actually the first writs we'll ever get. However, there's nothing you can use them for because you need at least 100 before you can use them for anything. But yes, there is 10 writs on the final task here today. It does not overwrite the chance of you getting any deeds because it's on ultra rare and all the deeds are on epic, legendary, and mythic. So it is taking ever so slightly from other ultra rare drop table. However, it is not taking away at all from the chance of getting deeds. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, it ends up giving 10 writs. I believe they modified it. I could have sworn it was 9 earlier. Maybe I was just looking at it wrong. But yeah, you can get 10 writs from doing out this today, and anytime that it appears. I assume on average it's going to appear about 2 to 3 times a week or so, though of course that could vary heavily. But generally about once a week you should be finding it. It's not that many writs, it's only 10. However, if you're only 10 short to go get a deed, it would help a little bit. But yeah, relatively low value overall, but compared to some ultra rare tasks like a small handful of souls or some kind of other almost useless thing, 10 writs isn't too bad, since deeds have a pretty big purpose right now, given that kingdoms will, can be upgraded to level 15, and eventually will be upgradable to level 20. So for that purpose, it's going to be pretty decent. And right now, you pretty much just only want to put them into purple in order to go get kingdoms like Silverglade, Karkaroth, Blighted Lands, and Darkstone leveled to 15 in order to get their magic bonus, which are the most relevant kingdoms to upgrade. Also relevant to do Zolkiri, however Zolkiri is green, whereas the other 4 I just mentioned are purple, which is why purple is so important, as almost every single magic kingdom is under purple. But anyways, let's go and keep fighting. Fight? That's not what I want. That is not the right kind of fight we want. We do not want PvP. Okay, how many sigils do we have? We have 19. Assuming Valravens, we'll probably get 2. That's 23. 23 is not enough because that's exactly at the point. So, well, we would get another 3 tomorrow, but if we want to finish on planning on finishing today, I think the game plan is we keep going through normally with what we're doing right now, and the second we get a Valraven, we start rushing. So I think that's the game plan. We play out each of these to its fullest degree every single time until we find a Valraven, and then we'll start rushing once we find next Valraven. That sounds like the game plan. Because after a Valraven, we're likely not going to find another Valraven anyways for like 3 or 4 floors. And then when we start rushing, we won't find one until like every 10 floors, it feels like, or even less. Because you're not doing nearly as many rooms. Which means you can actually pass the Valraven, which obviously is not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. Ooh, Cedric. I'm not using anything gold related though, so Cedric in this context is actually not that good. Good morning, Adam! Welcome. Yeah, this stuff's a little weird. It looks like you can have potentially 4 treasure rooms, so every single one of those spots is a % chance of treasure room and not guarantee. Kind of strange. And we'll get that down. And never mind, I could just Doom Club them. And we're good to go. Hello, Adam. Good morning. Welcome, welcome. There you go. Grab this, go left, go top. And then right to the boss room. And hopefully we get Valraven in the next few floors. And then we start rushing them. Small chance we might need to buy 1 more pack doing it this way, but we might need the stats anyways. But then again, we might not need the stats. Anyone who's done Pure Faction so far, because I'm pretty sure some amount of you have reached all the way there already. How difficult was it? I feel like it won't be, as long as you have some amount of stats. Because between all the score reduction you have off the rare, the only thing that's going to be threatening is cast damage. Unfortunately, this delve does not have mana drain. Having a 65% score reduction with mana drain would have been insanely overpowered. Fortunately, that's not the way it's set up. What would you put in place of Doomed Club? Doomed Glaive. And if you don't have Doomed Glaive, Cleanse Weapon would be fine. Particularly something like Shegar's Heart or something that uses brown. You can also pretty much use any brown weapon here in this context. The version of this team assumes you have plus 12 magic. Otherwise, you're better off using the other version of the team, which is Farce Troll, Double Gob Truffle into Doomed Glaive, or into pretty much any weapon in the entire game. You could either use a cleanse option like Sugar Heart or something else there. But that's normally the team that gets ran. The reason I'm running it this way is because we have max magic bonus. And I'm not sure this one actually even is better or not. That's kind of one of the reasons why we're even using it right now, is just kind of mess around with it. Because this is the first time I've had plus 12 magic to be able to mess around with this team in this variant form. But the 20% one might just be better. The 20% with 8 magic and doing it with Farce Troll. This team has a big looping disability by not having Farce Troll, as Farce Troll is one of the main components that make it capable of looping. And obviously in this context it does not have it. However, I don't know, it seems to work most battles. It's just there are those few battles where it doesn't end up getting going properly. But at least at this level range it tends to. Like, it's not as good of an infinite loop, but it's similar to that of Divinish Ball Aquilin and similar things. And that even though it's not an infinite loop in this variant of the team, it wins quick enough that it normally wins prior to it stopping looping. Wait, that's not proper English, but it kills the enemy team prior to it not being able to loop anymore, which is the main thing that matters. More often than not always. Like right now, we didn't end up getting it, which slows it down slightly. Ooh, and freeze doesn't help. Oh yeah, we're frozen. Whoops. That's not going to matter as long as he leaves us one skull. Let's see. Do we have green alignment here? Yes, he's dead. Also, we have Hunter's Mark off that hero, which helps quite a bit. Double the damage. And Doom Skulls do stack for that for 10 damage per Doom Skull. There we go. I lost a troop, but the only thing that matters going Deathless on is the very final battle. Everything else does not matter on that regard. But I think we might switch to the Farce Troll variants once. Oh, never mind. Well, time to start rushing. We found the Valraven. It's rushing time. But I think we're going to switch back to the Farce Troll variant. And just bring the 20% and bring out the 8 magic with it. And the main reason for that is mostly the freeze. Just to make sure that we can get going before they freeze us. Because that's obviously a pretty big issue if we get frozen on the final battle. Especially since the final battle is the most likely thing that would even kill us anyways. And to be at disadvantage on it is not a good thing. Shield of Urskea, Harpy, Romaine, and Megavore is the easy team. Yeah, you can end up going that way. Romaine teams actually can run all the way to 500. I personally don't use them for delves, but they do have the capability of running all the way to 500. And you wouldn't even necessarily need the Megavore as an option. You could just do it with a mana accumulation method. I feel like normally Leprechaun, however, whatever you would prefer can end up being put it there. And it's pretty cheap. Urskea Shield plus Rowain is super easy to obtain, that combo. Because Urskea Shield you get from 250 wins on Sentinel Hero class, which you get from completing out the, what's it called? The Urskea Kingdom. And the Rowain you get from completing out the Forest of Thorns Kingdom. So super easy and automatically obtained. And the Harpy's pretty easy if you want to go down that variant, since you just get that from throwing about 100 to a few hundred shards at Stonesong Airy, that one faction in the Underworld. And then that ends up giving her, and then boom, you got yourself a team. You can also use Leprechaun Ford or other mana generators. And you can also put a secondary damage source. So in most contexts, Rowain is fine as your only damage source. The only big liability with that is make sure she does not lose her armor, otherwise you're in trouble. Oops, I was hoping that would cascade to another skull. Apparently not. Oh, this isn't the final battle either. Oh, whoops, mistakes were made. We could actually lose this delve now. I forgot this wasn't the final battle. How on earth do we lose to a 25% summoned Ancient Horror? That's why you gotta double check the alignment. We should be fine, but that's a bit of a setback. Because now you have to do this final battle with just one truffle, which isn't too big a deal, especially with how good he's looping right now. He's looping right into himself. The Green Storm does help with that a decent amount. A little bit annoying not having a brown convert like the other variant has. I think we're just going to switch to the other variant after this delve, which I would say is the main variant of a truffle team. Okay, we got a bunch of mana, but we also have a bunch of skull spam, and I think we're going to go skull spam route. I'll take that for now. Do you have a thing over there? No. Can we get a truffle there? Not yet. Let's go take the other Doom Skull and just do it that way. There we go. Weird way to play out that battle, but it works. With what we had. Only a level 6 chest. Oh, yeah, done. Never mind. That's not too bad because we skipped like half the delve. That's why it's so low. Anyways, let's go switch this team now. Let's go back to the traditional team, which is get rid of that, get a Forest Troll, and just use the 20% off of the token. Forest Troll, put that there, and everything else can stay the same. Only other thing we need to go change is you to 20%. There we go. It's kind of funny, since we've gotten to plus 12 magic, it almost seems like 20% 8 magic's almost better in most situations. Not literally every situation, but a good number of them it is actually better running the 20%, because it makes it so you don't need the mana generator thing. Also, how many times am I going to misclick? Gosh. Click that, fight. Okay, and let's start rushing. We have 20, which means all we have to do is find one Valraven, and we'll have enough battles to do what we need to do. So hopefully we find one Valraven. There's a chance we don't. Oh, one other change we need to go make. Whoops. I forgot. We need Doomed... oh, hold up. It didn't save our team. What are you doing not saving our team? I forgot. You have to go do a battle. But I forgot something anyway, so good. Doomed Glaive. Forgot to put that in there. And put Doomed Glaive there. Put a Forest Troll there. And there we go. 20% 8 magic. And standard Truffle team. There we go. But yeah, that's, to my understanding, the best Truffle team in the game. Oh, one other change we might want to make, though. Is there a +2 green, +1 blue? Does that exist yet? I don't think it does, which is why I don't normally run it. Oh, no. It does exist, but it's a -brown. That's why I don't run it. I think Amethyrax faction might be better. Or the, what was it again? Wasn't it a green-brown? Yeah, +2 green and so +1 brown. Because +2 green is really important to have. And you don't want to minus your brown. Don't need to plus it either, but we definitely don't want to minus it. Okay. Those Forest Troll. And then we use infinite loop. And that's one of the main things that's much better about this team, is its consistency and infinite looping. Because you can get to a point where you just auto-win. And we were way past the point of auto-winning there. Yeah, Amethyrax banner is mainly normally the way to go, just because it's the best +2 green banner. However, theoretically, the absolute best banner in the game for it would be a +2 green, +1 blue. The only issue with this is that banner exists, but it's -1 brown, which is a color you would not want to minus. So you have to go other options, even though that banner option would theoretically be best. But it doesn't exist. It might eventually exist, but it doesn't currently, obviously. Oh, why'd I go for this one? There's like a billion ways for it to revive. I should just went for the other one. This one's not going to be harder. Like, this one's technically the easier battle. However, this battle takes more time than the other one. Let's see. We'll get that down. Grab all that. And should be dead in a few more. As long as none of them revive. Please get lucky and none revive. Let's see. Almost guarantee one will revive though. Yep, there's the Dragon Soul. And there's the baby dragon. 2 of them revived. How wonderful. Luckily, Doomed Glaive cleans up nicely. Yep, that is not the battle I want. That wasn't too bad for a double revive. Hello, Haley! Welcome! Hello, Michael! Welcome as well. Hello, Adam! Hello, 02! Welcome, 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 everyone. And hello, Mehmet and Neo, if I didn't already say hello. Welcome as well. And hello, James. We have at least, another 15 to 20 banners coming eventually. We're eventually going to have even more banners than that. Because you have to keep in mind, even after we have every single delve having a banner in the game, they're still likely going to be adding something that's related to kingdoms. Obviously, they're not going to be actual kingdoms, nor are they going to be factions. However, we are going to be getting something like kingdoms and like factions after factions have basically depleted through one per kingdom. What that will be, we don't know, but it will likely be another world. And what exactly they do with it, we don't know, but the devs probably do. I believe it's coming in 5.0. which is late. Oh, no official date on it, but it was originally going to be sometime through the first half of next year, but now it seems like it's going to be summer of next year, and at this point it could even get delayed till, who knows, later next year. But 5.0 patch looks like it might end up doing something related to that. But yeah, we're probably going to be getting more banners through whatever new format ends up coming in. They'll likely, they're obviously never going to cover every single -1, +2, +1 banner in existence, because the amount of combinations is absurdly high. I forget the exact number, but it's a very high number. But they're definitely going to be covering more into the future, until at least a good number of them are covered. Definitely every +2, +1 option will be covered. However, every +2, +1 option with a specific minus will not be covered. But eventually every +2, +1 will be, at minimum. Which is a problem, because that means we likely won't get a better +2, +1 of the banner that this team actually needs. Because the +2, +1 exists, but the minus is incorrect. Literally any other minus other than what it has would have worked. Yet it has the one and only minus that doesn't work with it, which is -brown. What is new in this game? What do you mean? As of version 4.7? Well, changelog is in the description, but a brief overview is they added trophies to pretty much everything. So now PvP, or sorry, now Explorer gives trophies, Delves give trophies, anything in the entire game gives trophies. Like even your dailies give trophies. Absolutely everything. They added 6 new Guardian troops that will be in the drop table as of Monday, and you can end up getting those in seals. They also modified it, so as soon as you have a single one of the Guardians to 4 times Mythic, it'll stop being in the drop table. Prior, it only happened if you had all 6 of the previous ones. However, now it does it on an individual basis, so you can use Major Orbs of Growth on them, or other similar things. Or sorry, not Major Orb of Growth, Major Orb of Ascension, I mean. And other similar things in order to go and get them upgraded a bit quicker and not feel like you're getting penalized. So they end up making that pretty nice change. Other than that, a couple Guild War changes. You can now get up to 2,000 seals rather than 1,500, which is essentially a free 25 gem keys per week. Also makes it a lot easier in order to be able to go get, what's it called? Makes it a lot easier to get 40,000 total seals for your guild. So if your guild was struggling with that, it is way easier than ever. Easiest it's ever been in the history of the game to get that done. So hopefully smaller guilds will be able to do that on a regular basis now, which is one of the main reasons they made that change. Other than that, guild tasks. We got epic tasks in guilds, which are probably the most controversial thing that happened in the most recent patch. This is good for newer and mid-game players. However, it's really bad against like end-game players, particularly the top 1% or so. And the main thing that it ended up doing was it made it so you have to do 31.5 million more goals worth of tasks in order to reach legendary tasks. And the overall loot for prior to that point is less than what legendary tasks were. However, you will be able to get some extra resources that you weren't previously able to get on them. Those including some tokens, a bunch of writs, which are a new resource that was added this most recent patch, which can craft deeds. Currently, purple deed is the only one relevant to go and upgrade, or to go and craft with those, so just focus on purples with them. But you get those, you get 1 deed at every single 11th epic task, and you also end up getting bonus stats. They give the same bonus stats as a normal task would give if you end up completing out the entire thing. However, they stack, so you end up getting basically double. So if you end up completing out all of the green normal tasks and all of the green other tasks, I believe that's 8 HP. It's either 8 HP or 8 armor. So you get 4 and 4, 1 for the normal ones and 1 set for the epic ones. And you can get as high as 6 attack for it from doing red. You can get as high as 4 magic from doing the purples. Of course, distributed 2 and 2, 2 in the previous normal tasks, and then the other 2 from the epic ones. But normal tasks are exactly the same. There's no difference with them. The only difference is that they added epic tasks, which prevent you from getting legendary tasks as quickly, but give you a wide variety of loot in doing so. The only problem is a lot of that loot is relatively useless, particularly to the people that can actually end up completing them to completion. Hello, Birdleaf! Welcome. Oh, it's been a long time since you played? Well, they've added a lot more than just that then since then. They added deeds since then, which are a new way of upgrading kingdoms, which you mostly just get in either guild tasks as of this most recent patch or in adventure board. Right now we have writs in adventure board, which is kind of like a really small version of deed. Other than that, We got tokens pretty recently, a couple patches ago. Or actually 2 patches ago, I believe it was. Tokens are a new resource that give you some global bonuses that you can set. They're almost like traits in a way to set 3 additional traits that are always active for any battle that you do. And this is pretty cool because they have mana start, they have some stat gains, they have cleanse, and they probably plan on adding more into the future. Though when they get around to that, probably won't be till version 5.0, which is later next year. Other than that, you can also use them to upgrade troops. I've kind of been hoarding them because I want to go and upgrade a bunch of stuff this Monday. But after this Monday, probably on Monday night stream even, so in 2 days from now, we'll probably just go dump a bunch of them. Because we have a lot of upgrades, but you can now upgrade troops to go gain additional stats on them. You end up using a bunch of various medals on them, and in doing so, you end up gaining some stats. They're not too important to go after, however, there is an achievement associated with it, which is the hardest achievement in the entire game that I believe 0 people even have done. And on top of that, you also end up getting just slightly more stats. So it's a little bit of a way of, in late game to actually go, or I should say end game, to go and just boost up your troops just ever so slightly. However, it is extremely expensive to do higher rarity troops in that regard. Really only commons, rares, and ultra rares are particularly viable. Epics, legends, and mythics can take absolutely forever to get end up getting upgraded. I didn't say that deeds and writs are useless to endgame players. I didn't mean it like that. I just mean that a good majority of the loot is useless to endgame players. Deeds and writs are quite literally the only thing on there that wasn't useless for the most part. Because they got rid of all the keys being on one single tree and distributed. So that made gold value go down a lot. They ended up nerfing the token tree, so those very useful Nishas and Anus that were originally on it are no longer on it. And yeah, the only useful things on it are writs and deeds. But no, writs and deeds are good. I meant that as like the other 99% of the loot, or 90% of the loot, is what's bad. Because late game players, relative to how much gold it costs, do not really need the pet food, do not really need the chaos shards, and do not really need tokens that are that low of rarity. Because those will be done way before the mythics and Nishas will be. Didn't they give more keys? They technically gave less keys as far as value towards the conversion of your gold. Because before, they were going to put every single key onto the red tree, which actually would have been perfectly fine. Because then the amount of gold value relative to how much gem key value you're getting would have been better than legendary tasks currently. Or how they, well, yeah, currently. Yeah, saying how they are currently is correct. But, it would have been more gem value than how they are currently. However, now that they distributed them across all of the things, even if they increased it ever so slightly, it's actually way, way, way less value, which is why they deliberately did it that way. Because now the amount of gold you get relative to the amount of gem value you get is way lower than when they would have just put it all in red tree. Hello, Anita, and welcome. You're bringing back the squirrel, I see. We haven't ate on stream for a while, so no squirrel meats. But yeah, we'll be going over guild tasks more on Monday. A little bit hard to go over them now because there's no like actual in-game thing for it currently. Yeah, I'll take that for now. But I should be up Monday night to be able to cover it. I mean, Monday morning, I mean. So I can't believe how close the holidays already are. Feels like time's just flying by. Because it's already 11 days until Christmas and 2 weeks until I go on the trip. I guess we'll take this because high multiplier. We have Dispel, so Submerge won't matter. Normally that would be the worst thing against this team. Or the best thing, I should say. Or, you know, it's strong against this team. However, with Dispel, it doesn't matter. Because once the go extra turn gets rid of all the Submerge. And there we go, we got Infinite Loop. You can already tell. And that's match. And dead. You're using the same team as you. Good thing if you can level Slayer on it. Am I leveling Slayer on it currently? What class am I doing? I'm doing Warden currently. And the main reason for that is just so it goes quicker. Yeah, I guess we could level Slayer some if we want to. However, there's two big issues with that. We don't have Dispel and we don't have Greenstorm. Both of which are really big benefits of using this. Also, we have Entangle at start, which is somewhat relevant once we get to later delves because their skull damage gets so high. Even though he can do it with skulls and he has some skull reduction, that's sometimes not enough when in super late delves, which we're heading towards. Yeah, Warden has a lot of utilities that actually work perfectly. If it wasn't for this team, Warden would be considered one of the worst hero classes in the game, and it was for some time. But this team single-handedly made it like top 5, just because of in this context, it's absolutely perfect. Not as perfect as perfect can be, but it's the most perfect hero class that currently exists that can be used in the context of this team. Next closest is Titan. The absolute closest would be if they ever made an elemental hero class, which doesn't look like it'll exist because we only have 4 more hero classes until 1 hero class per kingdom. And the hero class that's coming out the last 4, unless they're planning on adding more in some way, shape, or form, do not count as elemental. Not a single one of them counts as elemental, which is kind of strange. There's quite a few typings that actually are not covered by any hero class, which is kind of weird because there's more hero classes than typings. However, there is not one hero class covering every typing in the game. They're likely making reworks early next year that could theoretically be revamping hero classes in a way that it would be doing that, now that every hero class exists by that point. However, we don't know exactly what they're going to be doing in that regard, or what they really plan on doing once hero classes are maxed. They already know what they're doing, but we don't know what they're doing yet. But we will early next year. It's probably the first or second patch of next year. Probably the second patch, because the first patch is probably going to be a little bit more of a mini patch. The first patch of next year, probably mid-January or so. And then the update after that will likely be something addressing hero classes in some way. Now, we'll have to wait and see. We don't really know much info on that at the moment, but we'll know in the next several months. Also, they might do one more Q&A before the end of the year, so we might get some info then on what they might do. Not sure if they're actually going to be doing it or not. I know they did last year. They squeezed it in. Not sure if they have the time to do it this year. But hopefully they do. I don't think Salty has confirmed it yet. I'm not even sure if she's even trying to get it by the end of this year. It's starting to get pretty late in the year. Let me double check the forum. Because it would probably be posted by now, I feel like. Because that is like right around the corner. Oh, yeah, I still have the beta patch notes open. Let me get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. Now that the real patch notes exist. Let's see. Nope, I don't see it. No Q&A. Nope, doesn't look like it. So what did she mention about the gold fix? Ahoy, adventurers! We are in the process of pushing a fix for the unintended drop-off in gold occurring in the third easiest PvP fight that, oh, they're talking about casual PvP. PvP fight that happened as a result of a fixing, an exploit. We had planned to reduce the gold in the third easy battle, because it had jumped up a few months ago, but never intended to reduce it this much, and not at this time. Oh, you mean the buff that they did to gold wasn't intended that they did? Now if a team is more than 2,000 points below you in terms of team score, the amount of gold you receive will be less. However, the reduction in gold scales down more gently than in the previous version. As such, the gold will still be a little lower than 4.65, but it won't be as stark a reduction and drop-off than these fights in casual and ranked PvP. But anyways, that's not really too relevant to me because we do Explore, because Explore is better anyways. And since they still semi-nerfed overall the amount of gold from PvP relative to the previous patch, it is still the most viable way to just go do Explore, pretty much. Just stick with Explore. They added trophies to it. You need tokens anyways. So Explore is just vastly better than PvP. Has been for a couple months now. Or pretty much since the update, it's been more viable. Since last October, mid-October. I know, they're pushing people to Explore, which honestly, I'm perfectly fine with. No pet battles if you only do Explore, true. However, you can normally get your fix of pet battles in during Gnome events. If you check the game every hour during a Gnome event, and then just farm a little bit of PvP with your guild, so that you always have a pet active, you can end up getting like 20 pets done in a single Gnome event weekend. Potentially even more, depending on how much you play. But you can get your whole fix of Gnomes just during Vault events if you really wanted to. And just don't have them other than on Wednesday events. Because between Wednesday events and a Gnome event, you'd be able to get around an average of 1 per day, with most of that being concentrated during the Gnome event time. So, you know, about 30 per month. Though it'll all be distributed mostly on one weekend. But if you really wanted to, you could do it that way. Because the rate of getting Gnomes is vastly, vastly greater on a Vault event. And people would be more active during that time anyways, given that it is a Gnome event. And that's when you get more loot than any other point within the game. It's during that time. Hello, Inexcable. Can you explain to you the faction sigils work? So, there's 2 different types of faction sigils. There's the 3 that you get daily from the Underworld, which are those little scroll things that you see in the Underworld there. The way that these work is you get 3 per day. It resets to 3 regardless of how many you use. So if you only used 1 and you have 2 total, it goes to 3. And if you have 0, it'll go to 3. And if you have 3, it'll still be 3 the following day. So those will always just be capped at 3. And if you don't use them, you just lose them. And if you do use them, then, well, you get to use them. Those you can use on any faction in the entire game. And they are... they can be delayed by using it on a faction and then not doing the faction itself, the delve itself. And you can end up delaying 1 per faction by doing that. And if you don't feel like doing it on a given day, and you can distribute them pretty much however you want. Either trying to get 1 to 500, or trying to do a pure faction on 1, or, you know, whatever you want to do with them, or just simply farm a single one, like City of Thieves for the best loot, and just camp it at level 20, because it gives insanely good loot. But other than that, the way that the sigils work, the one specifically for events, is you get 3 per day. Those do keep accumulating, so even if you had something like, let's say, 15 sigils, and you didn't end up using them all on a given day, you'd have 18 the following day. Those do stack in that regard. You still gain 3 per day. However, they don't have to all be used on a given day. And other than that, the sigils just allow you to do another delve. They're restricted to whatever the delve event is. So right now we have a delve event, of course, for the new faction of I almost said Mirrored Halls, of Frostfire Keep. So you can use them for Frostfire Keep, but you can't use these sigils for any other faction other than Frostfire Keep. And one interesting thing about faction sigils is they always start at level 20. And they will always be 2 times multiplier. So every single time you do one of these battles on them, it will always start at 20, even if your delve was maxed at 500. Literally pure faction, it will still start at level 20. And other than that, you'll always get a 2 times multiplier, because it's always moving forward every single time. Let's see. But that's pretty much all the info on that. I believe that's everything, unless I forgot something. If you still have any other questions about them, let me know. And of course, you can buy them with gems if you want, whereas you can't buy more daily delves when it's not a faction event. However, when it's a faction event, which occur every Tuesday and once a month for an entire weekend, which is right now the once a month for an entire weekend time right now. But You can also do them every Tuesday. However, that event only lasts for 1 day rather than for 3 days, like the weekend one does. On the event, sometimes you have 3 sigils. It doesn't go down. It goes after a few matches. Sigils do not go down per room. It goes down per delve. And it goes down after you confirm the first battle of a delve. So basically how those work is, unlike Tower of Doom, they do not go by per battle, they go per floor. So the second you go and confirm a floor is when it actually goes down. So right now you can see we have 14. And as soon as we go and confirm and finish out this first battle, that will drop down to 13. So right now it's still 14 because we haven't confirmed the start of this delve. But as soon as we click that button, that just made our sigil go down to 13. However, we can do every single floor in this delve, and it will not reduce our sigils. We can do the entire floor. We could go and rush right to the end. We could do 3, 4, all of it. It will not reduce our sigils at all. It'll only reduce it by 1 as soon as we start the delve, which is what we just did right there. So now when we go back and look at it, it'll be 13. However, we can do any amount of rooms from this delve, and it will still be 13 until we confirm the next floor. As you see right here, it should be 13 because it went down by 1 because we started the delve, and now we can do any amount of these floors. Yeah, it's a little bit different than Tower of Doom. Tower of Doom, you lose 1 sigil per every single battle you do, which is why you have to communicate with your guild where the better rooms are so that you don't waste a bunch of sigils. However, with factions, you could just literally do all of them. 1 sigil allows you to do the entire floor rather than it being based per room, which is why it's not moving down every single time. Yeah, it can be a little bit confusing because if you're used to Tower of Doom, especially if you're a newer player who played Tower of Doom prior to ever playing delves, it can be a bit confusing because the way that they use sigils is quite a bit different. However, that's why. Tower of Doom is per room, and Tower of Doom is per room, and delves are per floor. The way that it uses sigils. Yeah, scouting's a pretty nice feature. Very, very useful. I highly advise buying Death Knight armor for multiple reasons. But 2 of the biggest reasons is you get one of the highest rates of gains in the entire game, and if you're planning on playing long term, it is definitely worth it in long term if that's going to be the only purchase you ever make in the game, or one of your only purchases. It's one of the things to consider. It's basically like buying the game in a way. It's basically the closest thing that the game has as an option for that. And the other thing is it gives you free scouting because you have to spend at least $30 on the game to get free scouting. And pretty much the most efficient way to do that is Death Knight armor. However, you can also do it by buying the better flash offers, a couple of them. However, do keep in mind that the flash offer right now is not one of the better ones. It's actually one of the worst ones. The one that gives 450 gems, 100 shards, and it doesn't even give you a guarantee. Oh, no, and 1-time Sacred Treasure. Why doesn't it show it over there, though? That's weird. But this one's not worth it. I would highly advise not going for that. But most flash offers are worth it. That's one of the few that surprisingly is not. They really overvalue some of those resources. Chaos Shards in general, I feel like they overvalue in every instance that they have it added in this game. Because Chaos Shards are worth very, very little. But they value them as if they're like gem keys or something. Which they are not even remotely close to that of a gem key. The reason why they have so little value is unlike glory keys, gem keys, event keys, and stuff like that, particularly glory and gem keys, they don't have any particular gem value attached to them. Because they cannot be used to obtain mythics, is the biggest issue with Chaos Shards. Every single instance that you can use them for can only accumulate legends, up to legends, and it can only accumulate 4 specific troops from a faction. So they're kind of like event keys in that regard. However, the fact that they have 0% mythic chance is the biggest thing holding them back. What would easily fix that is if they added either somehow a mythic to each faction, which is something they discussed in the past. However, it seems like something they probably won't do. Or add the actual kingdom's mythics to the drop table at a ridiculously low chance. Which would be a little bit weird to get from a faction. However, it would be such a low chance, it would be so rare that it would barely ever happen anyways. Because obviously something like that would be like a 0.1% chance, even if even that high. Maybe even closer to 0.01. Tower of Flume. Did I say Tower of Flume? I definitely say Tower of Doom. Am I that out of it this morning? We should say afternoon. Actually, it's not afternoon yet. It's almost 11. I hate this room. Keep in mind, it doesn't happen too often, but if you're trying to do deathless for a faction, being transformed by an enemy does count as a death. You transforming yourself doesn't count as a death, but the enemy transforming you does count as a death. So if they transform you and you're trying for deathless, that does make it so you don't get deathless. Even though you theoretically didn't die. However, for the purpose of delves, that does count as a death. It used to count as a death for boost ratio as well. However, they fixed that because it was pretty exploitable with some mechanics. Which I wish they wouldn't have fixed that because nothing was particularly overpowered. However, they might add something in the future where it would have been excessively broken for. And they were mainly just fixing it prior to that ever happening. Because most things that have a death boost ratio are relatively bad. As for events, as a fairly endgame player, is definitely 1 is Guild War, 2 is Raids, 3 is Invasions, and 4 is Tower of Doom for boredom. What, is that the order of which ones you find most bored? Or Tower of Doom being the most boring? I don't know. Personally, my favorite, or my order in which I would prioritize, or not prioritize, but how much I like each one, I'd probably say I like them in order of Guild Wars, Tower of Doom, Invasions, and Raids. Raids being the absolute worst, in my opinion. My biggest issue with Raids, which actually isn't that Raid week right now. My biggest issue with Raids is it's pretty much you one-shotting the enemy prior to them one-shotting you. It forces you just to have to go and pile onto the boss, and then you just have like a weird, boring 3 other troops that tend to have very weird synergy. I don't know, I just always hated Tower of Doom. Because it always has this, like a weird kind of timer system since you have to go for the boss troop. And it just ends up dying so easily on some weeks that it doesn't feel as challenging. Invasions, it's a little bit weird because, I don't know, Invasions seem similarly easy, but it has much better loot overall, which makes it feel a bit more rewarding as you're going through it. So I kind of like it for that reason a little bit more. Next would be Tower of Doom. Tower of Doom is interesting in that you have to coordinate with your guild. And overall, I almost feel like it's a better version of Delves. Delves I do really like the premise of it. But Tower of Doom also works pretty decent for it. Like, it took the theme of Delves and then added it in a way that wasn't as punishing and allowed a little bit more diversity for what you could actually use. You're still restricted onto a single color. So as far as teams, it's a bit more restricted. But between changing out, it's not as restricted, since you can change out every battle, whereas Delves are every floor you can only change out. And that's similar to why, or how the sigils are used too. Similar to when you can actually switch out teams. Because Delves can only switch out once every floor, or, for the floor. And once you set in that team, you can't change it. And every death is permanent for that floor. Whereas for Tower of Doom, it's per battle. And you can change your team per battle, and your team gets replenished per battle. But it also costs 1 sigil per battle. And in Guild Wars, mostly because it's the most challenging and diverse game mode in the game, where having more options in the game is actually beneficial, and having more upgrades in the game is actually beneficial, and having good working knowledge of teams is actually more beneficial than in any other game mode. Guild Wars is definitely not perfect. There's a lot I would still want changed with it, but it's probably my favorite game mode overall. And while I was a little bit annoying when we had Guild Wars literally every single week, I do kind of miss it. Like, it's kind of funny, because when Raids and Invasions first came in, prior to Tower of Doom coming in, people were, like, for the longest time were saying, we need to, like, not have Guild Wars every single week, maybe have it as, like, a bi-weekly thing, and then they made it once every 3 weeks. And then once they made it every 3 weeks, everyone kind of realized how much they like Guild Wars. I know some people just adamantly hate it still, but it was kind of funny. Oh yeah, there is some ultra annoying teams in Guild Wars though. Like, every single really heavy meta gets used there, which can be a bit annoying. I still feel like more needs to be done on that. They did take my suggestion for the time, however, they didn't really ever expand upon it. My suggestion at the time, which is probably one of the more recent suggestions that I actually got implemented into the game, I can't really think of anything else super recently that I was able to get changed other than like really small tweaks here and there. But probably the biggest thing I was able to get recently, which was about a year ago, whenever it was oh, what was it? We were able to get I just lost my train of thought. It was related to what we were just mentioning. Oh yeah, we were able to get it so you had to set unique teams for Guild Wars. In the past, you didn't have to set unique teams. However, they ended up making a system where you pretty much have to make sure every single one of your defend troops is a different troop, which made it so there wasn't a different meta, or it made it so the same team wasn't used for the entire week. However, the problem that occurred from that, because they never expanded upon that concept, is now you can end up having a different meta for every single day. So instead of just having one meta where everyone just runs the same team for all 6 days, now everyone runs pretty much the same team just on the 6 different days. So it somewhat solved the issue. It made it so you had to fight one team the entire week to 6 teams the entire week, pretty much. Which is an improvement, but not a full improvement, obviously. Oh, we'll grab that. We'll take that. Get our double truffle thing. If they had kept Guild Wars every week, you would hate, or you would have left a long time ago. Only good thing about Guild Wars every week, had they kept it, is it would have saved you a lot of money. Haha. Oh no, I feel like every week was too often for it. However, I feel like once a month is not often enough. Even once every 3 weeks didn't seem often enough when it was like that. But then it got even less frequent when Tower of Doom came into the game. Like, I definitely agree it shouldn't be every week. But, I don't know, once a month just doesn't seem often enough in the current state of the game. Oh, we'll grab that. Get her a double. Hello, Viper! Welcome. Your old time flies by. I do feel like as I get older, time flies by quicker. I feel like the existence of school makes time go by slower. Even in college, time still felt like it went by slower. But like when you have like full capability over your schedule, time seems to go by so much quicker. Like blazing quick. Like you wake up and it's already like, oh, it's like 8 p.m. now. Like time just goes by so quick. Like you wake up, do a few things, and it's like, oh wow, it's already like night. Let's see, I'll throw that down. Hello, September Blick. Welcome. Being team building and slow playing and adapting to opponent. Some players regularly perform better than others, so this is not just pure luck, but skill. Oh wait, you honestly love Guild Wars? Sorry, I read that in weird order because I didn't read the first part. But you honestly love Guild Wars, but you're stressed out when the week comes. Yeah, I do like Guild Wars, but it is very stressful. It's probably the most stressful thing to do in this entire game. Because you basically get judged for every battle. And while it is heavily skill-based, there is a factor of luck that applies to every single one that is beyond your control. Because there's 2 factors of luck. One is starting board, and the other is how good of a start the enemy gets. Because if either of those are good in favor of the enemy, you could potentially lose to due to just bad luck. However, it is the most skilled-related area in the game overall. Like, it's not a perfectly skilled area, but it's as far as anything that currently exists in Gems of War, it requires the highest amount of skill to perform decently. However, one slight downside to it for earlier players is it also requires the most amount of troops and upgraded troops of any location in the game. Many other locations in Gems of War can be ran very easily while not having that many options. However, one big issue with Guild Wars is the more options you have, the better you will do. So the more mythics you have, the more upgrades you have, the more everything you have, the better you will perform in Guild Wars. Which is the only big downside of Guild Wars. However, generally, if you're the size of your, or the type of guild that you're in generally reflects the type of resources you have and overall the kind of opponents you have. So it's not too unbalanced in that regard. However, if you eventually get yourself into a big guild prior to having a lot of options for your troops, you can be at a bit of a disadvantage for months in Guild Wars until you end up building up all the teams and everything. Because Guild Wars theoretically requires you to have 12 teams at minimum. One for each offensive and one for each defensive. Though the offensive is definitely more important than the defensive. Oops, I thought that was kill. Whoops, what that is. Do I enjoy fighting Orb Weaver Life and Death almost 30 times a week? I don't feel like people use it that often. People use it in Guild Wars, though I don't think it's that frequent. I feel like I only have to fight it about 10 times per Guild Wars. And between 30 fights, that's not too bad for something that's extremely meta. And there are counters to it. Stun being one of the better ones. Like an Obsidius. And Obsidius can be used on half the Guild War days. I generally don't bother building it into any of the teams. However, it's one of the easiest ways to deal with an Orb Weaver. It doesn't deal with the life and death itself, but you can just put a silence or anything over the top of that, or just even use a mana drainer. Like if it's a brown day, you just have Famine Obsidius and run the Famine in front of your Obsidius. And if it doesn't have Stealthy, you could even target it. However, most Orb Weavers do run with Stealthy. But for that reason, you kind of have to use an AoE drain. Also, but yeah, you can do that for Purple or Brown Day. Both Purple and Brown Day have a full AoE option into Obsidius Stun, which is probably the easiest way of dealing with that team if you are still struggling with it. It can still win regardless, though, because sometimes it can just get lucky, because of death marks are really annoying, and if you don't have a counter to that, because you can normally only counter one or the other. But if you want to counter the fact that it keeps casting, and the fact that you have to deal with Orb Weaver trait that keeps summoning, the easiest way to deal with that is on Brown Day, you run Obsidius plus Famine, with Famine in front of the Obsidius. And on Purple Day, run, which is a little bit more viable now, because of Vespera. Actually, never mind, you wouldn't really use that with Vespera. Actually, yes, you could. Yeah, Vespera has Purple. Duh, I forgot. But if you wanted to run it, one interesting team that you can actually run now is Hero with a purple weapon, or some kind of other similar option, just so it's pure color. But most likely Hero with purple weapon. Followed by Vespera, followed by, what's that thing called? Is that one purple troop that costs 10 mana? Sloth. Sloth. You can run that. It has a full mana drain onto your entire team, any enemy team. And you can run that, plus run Obsidius. So that way you'll easily get a stun. You'll easily get all the mana you need. And as a backup plan, you can use Sloth to mana drain the enemy. And you'd also have stun, so it won't be able to summon. And you can use your purple weapon as your damage option. And use that as Doomed Glaive or whatever else you want to use it for. You could also potentially use Sloth in first slot because it's going to gain a lot of HP. And just do it in order of Sloth, Hero, Vespera. Actually, that's probably the way to go. Sloth, Hero, Vespera, and Obsidius. Actually, I might even use that for this Purple Guild War, because that sounds like a really fun thing to use against Orb Weaver. I'm not sure if people would be using Orb Weaver on Purple Day, but we might need to try that. That actually sounds like an interesting concept. Though, I might not do it depending on what team we're up against. But that does actually sound pretty viable of a team. It seems a little bit towards the slower side, but it seems really safe. Because its slower side would be the fact that your hero's the only really particular damage source you would have. And it'd probably be something like Doomed Scythe. Or Creeping Death if you don't have Doomed Scythe. But yeah, I might need to go make that my team right now, just so I don't forget it. Because I'm pretty sure I'm going to go forget it. But that sounds like a lot of fun. Plus, we're going to have a hero class coming next, I believe January 3rd? No, I forget what day it was. But sometime early next year, we're getting a hero class that's going to be really good for that team, too. However, we won't be able to use it until 2 Guild Wars from now. Next Guild War will obviously come prior to that. What am I looking for? I'm looking for a empty team or a purple team. What am I currently running for purple? Why do I feel like our current purple is really viable? It was decently viable. But let's see. Purple Guild War, Purple Guild War. What team can I overwrite here? No, I need that for the video. Here we go. We can overwrite this one. Purple GW. Okay. What am I looking for here? I need, why is it taking so long? Load! Loading, loading, loading. Loading? Hello? Hello? That was weird. Why did that take so long? Anyways, what am I looking for? Well, let's put all the troops in first. So we need a Vespera. We need a Sloth. Gosh, I haven't used Sloth in ages. Sloth is particularly broken, but he's very rarely used just because the context that we'd use him is very rare. Obsidious. And hero with a purple weapon. Oh, not Creeping Death. There we go. Okay. And that'd be Purple Guild War. And then based on current classes that exist, I guess we just use it with Necromancer. What's everything you have again? Explode a blue at start, inflict freeze on skull, immune to freeze. And of course he has that mana drain to your entire team and to the entire enemy team. And he gains a 1-to-1 off of all that. Let's see. Hey, this thing gets Brownstorm whenever an enemy dies. That's not necessarily a good thing, but I believe Doom Scythe has a better option for that. Yeah, it creates a Bone Storm. So then you get a Bone Storm into a Brownstorm. It's not really particularly good. However, there's no other way to fix that on this team. But oh well. Too bad this doesn't convert Browns to Doom Skulls. That would have been funny. I guess you could theoretically use Black Manacles or something there. But Doom Scythe is probably the way to go. But anyways, I guess we'll just do it with Sorcerer. Where does Sorcerer go? I mean, not Sorcerer, I mean Necromancer. Which is basically like the new Sorcerer because they made Sorcerer so bad in the current state of the game. But yeah, you could just do this for extra life on our purples. Freeze enemy when a enemy dies. Some spell reduction. Half mana start. We could also start with Darkstorm. Stealthy. Extra purple, which is relevant since our whole team's purple. And 7% chance for a kill every kill. And then we also gain some free passive souls because why not? Off of the trait there. We also end up gaining 4 additional purple for it. Or 4 additional magic, I mean. Off the start of battle because our whole team's purple. And we would change the banner to a +2 purple, +1 something. Let's see, what are we not using? We are not using green. And I believe that's the only color we're not using. Yep, just green. What do we have that's good? Actually not. Do we not have a +2 purple? Apparently not. That's unfortunate. Maybe we just go standard +2 purple then. Because we don't really need a +2 red, and nothing else is purple in it that has minus green, unfortunately. Yeah, I might just have to run it like that. Oh no, it's either this or there's a +2 purple. I guess we could leave it like this just because we already have an extra purple for hero. So we have +2 red, +2 purple. Well, that's not too relevant for him. He can get a pretty decent amount of damage off. And he also has some board control that we could use. And we're going to have so much of the same color on the board that we could probably actually use this board control for once. Let me actually go test this in PvP real quick. I'm actually really curious how this runs. It's not going to be good against Web Spinner, though. It is not meant to run against Web Spinner. Let me actually change that. There we go. Here's exactly what I wanted to run it against. Perfect. That is literally the exact team I wanted to use this against. So here it is. Let's see if this works, Zeddicus. Here's a Creeping Death team. Or not a Creeping Death. A Life and Death. Gosh, I'll get it right eventually. Yeah, Life and Death. I was right that time. Never mind. But this is a Life and Death team. Okay, that we're up against. So right off the bat, we're going to want to get Vespera up. However, for now, let's go a little bit in Sloth. He's actually going to help us. However, he's going to do an extra turn there, which is not good, and I have no way of stopping it currently. So let's get some Vespera mana. He's going to get some purple there. Oh, there goes Life and Death. He might get going before we can really drain him. Oh, wait. Does this thing have immune to mana drain? Gosh, we just need to go stun him before we can even get a drain off. But that's, of course, why we have Obsidius. Because we can bypass that. However, we need an extra turn to be able to bypass it. Oh, this thing has immune to Death Mark, too. That's convenient. You don't, though. Let's see. Yeah, let's just take some mana. We're really struggling getting that extra turn. Please tell me you can just drop it somewhere. No, doesn't look like it. That'll make it so we don't get it, but we'll go for that for now. Okay, we better get an extra turn off of this. So obviously we do that to keep it alive. Get our extra turn. Now he's stunned. Oh no, he has Bless! He got the Bless on in time, I forgot. Gosh, that's still annoying. But anyways, we should be fine to go at this point. Do we have a yellow alignment? No. We could probably go drop something. No, we don't have alignment for that yet, so we don't even have Vespera yet, actually. It's a bit of an issue, actually. Because a lot of people do run the Arachnean Weaver version of it. And this one doesn't seem like it can work that well against it. Go for that for now. Grab herself a alignment there. Get our big hit in. Then we can go for the buff on the first slot again. Keep that thing alive. And then we go our alignment again. Throw that out. A little bit of a bad start, but it worked. Let's try it again. Here's something else that could theoretically be used. It's a little bit of an older version of a Divine team. This used to be meta about a year and a half ago, but quite a few Divines got nerfed, including Infernus, Divine Ishpala, and Ubistet, which made this team no longer viable. However, some people still run it. It's not a bad team. It's just not as meta as it was a year and a half ago. And compared to better options that have come since then, it's not really that viable to go for. However, some people still like using it. It's not a bad team by any means. Okay. And then we just keep doing this till we get alignment, ideally. Either on Obsidius or off of Doom Scythe. And we just use Sloth whenever we need to go mana drain. If we even need to go mana drain. Still feel like we can't do anything with all this. So many turns wasted. Also, you could buff Hero instead if you wanted to. Is that win? No, I don't think that's enough damage. Nope. Oh yeah, I forgot. He doesn't actually use magic, which is the only bad thing. He does not use magic in any way. And he does gain some magic as we do that. I don't think we have any good drop here. Normally Obsidius is really slow to use because you have to figure out where on earth you're going to use them, and there's so many different ways that you could use them. It's a little bit of a weird trip in that regard. But let's take a skull for now, kill that out, and then just Doom Scythe and hopefully have one skull next to it. Doesn't look like we do, however, use Obsidius stuff next to it. Never mind, we'll just go for that. Kill it out normally. But it seems to function. I'm not sure if we'll use it for next Guild War. Because what we already used for Guild War is already pretty solid. However, if you did want to get a counter to that, if you can get this rolling prior to Doom Scythe getting its first, or prior to Life and Death getting its first cast, I feel like that would be good against any Life and Death variant. If you can get it rolling prior to Obsidius. Gosh, I'll say the right thing eventually. Prior to a Life and Death cast, I feel like that will be really good to get Life and Death. And it can still win even if Life and Death gets first cast, like what happened in that battle. Oh no, I feel like it'd be fine to run it against it. It's like the hardest counter I can think of off the top of my head. Particularly that uses the new Vespera. And I do want to use her a decent amount for next Guild War, most likely. Not sure how much we'll be using her, but to some degree I do. Because she's the most relevant thing that has occurred between the two Guild War options. Or, you know, between last Guild War and this Guild War. She's the most relevant thing that was added. Also, her whole purpose is pretty much Guild Wars, so I did want to test her on every Guild War day if we could. And that's probably what we'll test her with on Purple Day. Ideally against Life and Death itself. Because that's what we built it against. A little bit weird running Obsidious last slot, but I feel like on the context of the team, that's the way to put it. Because normally Obsidious is ran a little bit further up front because of its score reduction. It has 50% score reduction, which isn't absurdly high, but it's higher than what most things have, obviously. We could run Dispel and 4-match on Hero. Yeah, we could do that if we want to really, really counter it, if they're running Bless off Life and Death. Because this spell does get rid of Bless. This spell does not have immune to Bless. It can only counter out Curse once. However, it does have no immunity to Bless. I mean, it does have no immunity to Spell, I mean. But yeah, we could just run any Dispel Hero class. That could work. Only problem, it wouldn't be as good with that weapon. But it would be fine. I guess at that point, we could even put it in first slot in front of the Sloth. And use it for Barrier. Like, for example, we could use Dwarven Hero class and have it for Barrier or something. And that would have Dispel and Barrier every Brown. Actually, that would probably work, because we have Brownstorm. Yeah, that's probably the way to go, actually. However, I think we need to change our banner to double purple if we do that. Just because we won't have +1 purple anymore. I don't think it has +1 purple on it. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. There's no way it has Arcane Tree. Do I like Guild Wars? Yeah. Guild Wars is a lot of fun. Stressful, but fun for stressful. Hello, Pat Boy. What team would you suggest for Pure Faction for Frostfire? You run double of the 65% score reduction troop into double of the legend. So basically, you run double rare into double legend is how we're most likely going to be running Pure Faction. And we'll be doing that later tonight. Right now, this stream, we're going to 500. And then tonight, we're doing Pure Faction 500. That is the game plan currently. That is the game plan. But yeah, let me go change that after this battle before I forget. Because that does sound like the way we go. I just need to go change the banner and everything. Just because it's a big liability if it does get blessed. And I'd rather have a counter to it rather than having to outrush it. Because generally in Guild Wars, you want to build the safest option you can. That can function even when you start getting at a disadvantage. Because the biggest issue is using a team. The kind of teams that work better for PvP compared to Guild Wars, and why PvP and Guild Wars are quite a bit different in the teams that you can use, other than the color restriction, is also because of... oh gosh, I just lost my train of thought. No, fail! But mostly because of the way... Oh, I remember now. Because PvP, you don't have to be safe, whereas Guild Wars, you do. And the main thing that I mean in regard to that is you have to have a backup plan for the battle in order to win. For Guild Wars, you don't need that. The only thing that matters about in PvP, you don't need that. In PvP, it just matters how quickly you can win. But in Guild Wars, you need to have an option to be able to come back when you're at disadvantage. Whereas in PvP, you do not need an option to come back when you're at disadvantage. You just want to win as quickly as possible. And if you happen to get into disadvantage, you just simply go and reset to another battle. If you had to, just to save time. Whereas obviously you can't do that for Guild Wars. And you need to make sure you can come back from any situation. Or at least any situation that you're currently up against in the particular battle. But anyways, yeah, let me go change this real quick. Let's change it to, I don't know, what's the best Dispel we could use? Warden we definitely wouldn't want to use. What's everything that even has Dispel? I forget what the full list even is. It's everything that has that Gar tree. I think the only thing that has purple would be you. You have Dispel while gaining additional damage to purple, if I'm not mistaken. However, I'm not sure if we would really want to use Death Knight. However, Death Knight in first slot, I guess, could theoretically work. Because we end up getting death marks off it when it dies. What else does it have? It has Storm Tree. Would that even be worth it? It gives extra magic to elementals, which we do have on the team. Banish, obviously, for Dispel. Barrier and ally whenever a ally dies. Or we could go for Life Siphon, which would probably be the way to go. Depends on the context of the battle. Probably would be Life Siphon in Guild Wars context. Unfortunately, we cannot go Useful Storm. Though we could go extra skull damage, which is relevant given that we're using Doomed Doomed Scythe. We then do Barrier at start, just so we don't die as quickly. Freeze for the enemy, so we have Freeze option in case we lose our turn or in case they have Freeze. So we can Freeze counter. And extra damage for Scythe, which we are using. So yeah, we'll actually go Death Knight and just put it the first slot in case it dies. Because then we can actually utilize it and just buff up hero. And banner I do need to change because no longer do we have +1 purple, oddly enough. This hero class does not have +1 purple on it. Oh, yes, it does. Never mind, I lied. It does. I forgot. The arcane tree has it. Oh, wait, sorry. Never mind. That's the wrong hero class. Hold up. 1 second. Yeah, I don't think Death Knight has it. Last I recall, I don't think so. Because I don't think it has arcane, does it? Equip. Nope, it doesn't. It has Death, but no arcane. So yeah, never mind. So we'll go 20% with it. So you'd go 20% with 8 magic, probably. Which I believe we're already set to, yeah. So you just run it like that, and we need to go change our banner for it. Let's go to PvP battle. There we go, another life and death team. A weird one of it, though. It's a skull version of it, which is even more annoying because this one's not as good against skull version of it. However, let me still go test it and see what happens. What am I looking for? I am looking for... I already said that. I'm looking for banner. What's the highest green banner? I mean, that's not the one I need. I need, just a +2 purple is what I need. Where is +2 purple? There we go. Okay, we'll roll with that then. Because we lost our other +1 due to switching hero class. See how it does against this. So we are going to want to take every skull due to him using the web spinner variant. And I'm not going to take it for green because I'll end up giving him something off the cascade. We'll take that, we'll take that. We're entangled right now, which is problematic for this team. We'll just take a skull for now. He is stunned, so that's nice. However, that's still enough to kill. Really? Oh, duh, because he got cleansed. No wonder why. Luckily, we do have backup summon, which is beneficial. Let me kill this web spinner already. I'm just going to focus all in on it right off the bat because of how big of a priority that is to kill. Okay. Oh, should take an extra turn there. Not too big a deal, though. Life and Death. I can't mana drain it for multiple reasons. One, it's not stunned and has Bless on it. Oh, yeah, we don't have Hero anymore. We don't have Dispel. Fail. Yeah, it's bad against Skull Spam. That is a problem. Because our other purple team is good against Skull Spam. Though I guess we could always use this whenever in that situation. Just use it alternatively. Use the other team that we normally use whenever we're up against Skull Spam. And then anything that's more cast-oriented, we switch over to this team. That's probably the way to go. Okay, I need mana for her. I think we just take a purple at this point, so we'll grab all that mess. He'll take Skull, which is fine. Nothing can die, and it won't matter. And, gosh, we are actually going to lose. That's mostly because this thing has nothing to deal with Skull Spam. However, Vespera can solo if she feels like it. If we get lucky enough. Which is why I feel like she's going to be insanely good for Guild War. Because she has one of the best backup plans that any troop in the entire game has. This is her backup plan. You just get infinite summons into infinite stats onto your first slot. Or onto herself. And her backup plan is ultra strong. Because this scores very well for Guild Wars. The way that it loops like this into a bunch of mana accumulation. And then you can just take a bunch of skulls into winning. And this can come back from... don't want to say like almost anything. Like as long as you're not frozen. This can pretty much come back from anything. As long as you're not frozen or webbed. Webbed, you could still get the loop, but you're not really getting anything from that loop for the most part, because you're not really gaining much bonus stats. But as long as neither of those two conditions are set, it can pretty much come back from anything. I should have taken that free skull. Why did I not? That was such a free skull right there. Alright, I'm just grab that for now. Needs to die out. We should be up to one-shot range at this point, other than for his life and death. Which is probably the most relevant thing to kill. But oh well. But hey, it won! This is why I thought Vespera would be so good for Guild Wars. Well, there's multiple reasons. But, like, almost everything about her is insanely good for Guild War. And this is one of them. The fact that she can solo an entire team in Guild Wars and score decently while doing so. Yeah, she is going to be such an insane Guild War option. Even when you lost the battle, you won the battle with her. It's really weird. Because that battle was lost under almost any other circumstance. But then she just solos the battle. And while you'd still lose some score, because that's obviously the battle took forever, you wouldn't lose the battle. And it's a good backup plan for when all else fails on your team. Yeah, that's probably going to be the meta for yellow, purple, and blue. There's probably going to still be teams that are overall slightly better than Vespera teams. However, from a safety perspective, she's probably going to be used as one of the safest options for all three of those colors. Since you can solo an entire team, as long as they don't have freeze. And even if they have freeze, there's other teams you could easily run to counter the freeze. Yeah, Phoenicia is going to be meta for Gnome weekends. You don't need her for Gnome weekends. However, to get the highest trophy rate in the game, you basically, having her for Gnome weekends not only increases the amount of gold you get, but it increases the amount of trophies you get by double. It doubles the amount of trophies you can get during a Gnome event, which is a pretty substantial increase. Because the meta for Gnome events now, if you're looking from overall value for speed and everything, you would spam level 5 Explore with Phoenicia one-shot, because that gives 2 trophies per battle, and it gives you some tokens. Though do keep in mind it is impossible to get Anus or Arachnias from doing that, assuming you're doing all of it just in tier 5 for Explore. However, it would give the highest trophy rate in the entire game that has ever existed in the entire game, ever. As well as it would give you tied at the highest rate for Gnomes in the game. There's a few other ways you could do it, like, you know, Explore 1, 2, or 3 with a quick Rowan kill into Leprechaun or something like that. However, it would be the quickest trophy in the rate, since it would be gaining double that amount of trophies. Since Explore 1, 2, 3, or 4 only gives 1 trophy, whereas Explore 5 gives 2 trophies. And Phoenicia, depending on what your stats are, does have enough damage to one-shot Explore 5. However, it cannot go any higher than that in the current state of the game. It might eventually be able to do Explore 6. But it does not currently have the damage to do so. We would probably need to have about like 5 to 10 more magic than what currently exists. Probably once we get every 15 magic kingdom, it might be possible. But anything prior to that, probably not. Also, you would definitely 100% require having 12 magic off of metals if you don't already to do that on level 6. The main thing that's relevant about level 6 is that's the first point in which you get a chance of getting Anu. I believe there's still a 0% Nisha chance. However, tier 6 is the lowest where you have any chance of getting an Anu. It's a really low chance. Like, I believe it's lower than the chance you would even get a Nisha off of Explore 12. However, it does add the chance of getting one. Whereas doing tier 5 has 0% chance for anything above Arachnia. It only goes from common to epic. It doesn't have the higher 2. And 6 introduces the first instance of Anu, the legendary one. And I believe the first instance of Nisha comes in at 10. However, if you're doing 10, you might as well just do 12. Because they're pretty much the same thing at that point. And 12 has a much higher Nisha chance. I believe it's more than double, actually. I think it's like 4 times the chance or something. Forget the exact math on it. Not to mention you were getting more of those token things anyways. Or, you know, not token things, the shards. The 100 that you need per thing. Because obviously doing 12 gives it to you the quickest. You only have 2 Nisha medals, but you plan on getting getting thee and trying to get her to gold. Which one? Wait, you're trying to get Phoenicia to gold? I would not really advise that. However, if you want to run Explorer 6 with her, that would help in doing so, because she does gain 6 magic, which is 12 damage when she to all enemies when she ends up getting fully upgraded. However, it is extremely expensive to upgrade mythics, and I'm not sure if you'd want to do that unless you're really adamant about trophy grinding. Because in the current state of the game, she's the most meta thing for trophy grinding due to that. And if you wanted to do Explore 6 rather than Explore 5. However, Explore 5 and Explore 6 would have the same trophy rate. Their trophy rate would not be different. The only difference would be you'd get slightly more gold per hour and you'd get slightly more metals per hour. As well as slightly better metals. But the trophy rate would be the same at 5 or 6. There's no difference between the two. At least in that regard. Hello, Steven! Welcome. Too bad there's not a mythic that 4 times Fairy Fires at the start of battle. That'd be so broken. I would love to see it exist. 4 times Fairy Fire off of either extra turn or off of start of battle. Either or would be pretty much the same premise in most situations. However, at start of battle would actually be better for quick kills. That'd be a really, really funny mechanic. That will probably never exist because of how ridiculously overpowered it'd be for quick killing. Though it might eventually exist. Power creep will keep occurring to a point where that will probably exist eventually. We never even thought 4 times of a status effect would ever exist, and now we have like 3, 4 different options that do it. We have 4 times stun, we have 4 times, let's see, what's everything we have? We have 4 times stun, we have 4 times, why can I not remember any of them? We have 4 times stun, we have 4 times burn, and we have 4 times submerge, and we have 4 times, poison. Did I miss any? Maybe that was all of them. We also technically have 4 times freeze on death, and we also have 4 times death mark on death. Death Knight has 4 times death mark on death, and that one frost thing that came in last July has 4 times freeze on death, which can be instantly triggered on turn 1 with an Elspeth. However, that requires 2 troops to set up, which isn't as viable as something that does it with 1 troop. However, all the ones that require 2 troop setup are a lot cheaper because they require a legendary or some kind of other thing that's easy to obtain. Whereas all the ones that do it off of extra turn are all mythics, 100% of them. 4 times bleed a tangle? Wait, he does 4 times bleed and tangle? I thought he does it per extra turn. He doesn't do it to the entire enemy team. He only does 1 enemy per extra turn, right? Wait, does he do whole team? I forgot about that. He actually does do whole team, doesn't he? Where'd he go? No, it's only a single random enemy. That's what I thought. It's not an entire team. It's only 1 single enemy. I was referring to things that could do it all simultaneously in 1 single instance. Off of trait. Not off of ability or off of anything else. But yeah, he only does it 1 at a time. Similar to how Frostfire does a burn freeze 1 at a time. Which is still a really good mechanic. But it's only 1 at a time, not to all. Theoretically, if you do enough extra turns, obviously you could do it to all. But I'm referring to like quick options that can do explore and such. And so they could do it instantly. Or at least in a really timely manner. Because obviously most explore battles... Like if you're taking more than 30 seconds for an explore battle, that is a slow explore battle. Pretty much. I wouldn't say that. Actually, if you're doing explore 12... You have up until about 45 seconds until I would say it's slow. But ideally you want to be aiming for the 30-second for 12s. Definitely 100% under a minute per Explore 12. But if you're doing the lower level range, you want to be aiming for 20 seconds or less per Explore. If you're doing anything from about 1 to 5, you should be aiming for under 20 seconds, or 20 seconds or so per battle. You want to get at least 3 in per minute. Is the bottom line if you're doing the really quick ones. And if you're doing the higher ones like 12s, you want to do 1 every 1 to 2 every minute. Oh, what do we grab? Get the other thing. Get our doubling. And then some truff to truff. Oh, so it's starting to get slightly slow. Well, not slow in the slow sense, but slow in the, it's slowing down noticeably. Because the stats are getting higher. This is definitely not slow. But, you know, it's, getting slower, I should say. There is eventually a point when stats get high enough where Iron Gut and Zugoff are better than doing, Truffle. However, I like using Truffle too. It's also a lot safer in that it's the chance of it losing is very ridiculously low. Due to once you get looping, it's auto wins. And I believe we already got loop as long as it doesn't miss. Yep, we got loop, we won. It's already over. It is already over. Just a matter of applying all the casts. And he's dead. Gosh, I love Truffle Team. So glad they never nerfed Truffles. I hope they never get around to nerfing it. I'm gonna miss using this team if it ever becomes not viable. Though even when Skeleton Key team has become less viable, I still use it. Like, Skeleton Key is nowhere near as meta as it was a year ago. But it's still relevant. When you came back from your 3-year hiatus, oh wow, that's wild. You weren't even able to win 50% of your PvP battles at one trophy. Power creep is real. Yeah, they have done a lot of power creep in the last forever. Like, the game has never stopped power creeping. Stats literally started in single digits when this game started 5 years ago. But every year they find a different way to power creep in some way. It always happens. However, all you have to do to replenish that is get back into a guild, get some keys again, and you'll easily get some drops that are more towards the current meta. Also, of course, glory troops every single week. While they're not always viable, they're sometimes really viable, and those sometimes power creep as well. And those you could really easily obtain. Because it's easier than ever to gain glory. Glory compared to when this game first started is like, what, 50 times more common or 100 times more common? It's absurdly more common than it originally was. At one point in the history of the game, it was capped at a 16 glory per day was the highest amount of glory. Now, during Vault events, you can gain over 2,000 glory per hour. Though that's only out of 3 days out of the month. However, even just doing PvP can get around 500 to 1,200 glory per hour. Depending on what exactly you're doing and if there's a +5 glory week or not off of a event troop thing. Because that almost doubles the amount of glory you can get. However, it slightly slows down your team, so it's not exactly double. The 1k gnome drops themselves is enough to put old rates into the deepest dungeon. I know. It's really funny how overpowered 1,000 glory is off of that. It's actually the best drop any gnome has. There isn't a single gnome drop that is better than 1,000 glory, with the only exception being Vault Key. However, every gnome in the game has Vault Key as a potential drop, and it's the rarest drop. However, other than Vault Key, any drop that isn't a Vault Key, 1,000 glory is the highest of any troop. Because it comes out to a value of about 5 gem keys, which comes out to a value of about, 50 glory keys, which comes out to about 5 gem keys, which comes out to a value of 45 to 50 gems, which is the highest loot that any gnome has that isn't Vault Key. Yeah, that's absurdly high. It's pretty much like a whole hour of PvP grinding glory within a single battle. And you can get multiple of them per hour in gnome events. Theoretically, you can even get it outside of gnome events. However, of course, chances lower that you'd get multiple an hour. However, you could still get one every like hour or two by farming Explore quickly, or even just doing normal PvP or something else. Because they are located almost everywhere. But Explore is probably the best place to go and hunt them. Particularly low-level Explore, but high-level Explore is still fine. And the main reason for low-level Explorer, because the main thing that matters in finding them is how many battles you can cycle through. And currently, low-level Explorer has the quickest win rates in the entire game at this moment in time. Or at least tied at the highest. Technically, questlines do too. However, questlines have a very limited amount of battles you could do. They said they would plan on eventually expanding those. However, they never did get around to that. Probably will eventually, though. Oh, we're almost at 500. So close yet so far. Actually, I'll probably give out a redeem code after this stealth. Because our morning stream will probably wrap up once we reach 500. Because I do want to save Pure Faction for later tonight. Mostly because last night I said I would do Pure Faction tomorrow night. Even though we probably would have time to do it this stream. I am going to save it for tonight. Do you know if Vault Rework still planned? I'm not sure if it's still planned, but probably. They haven't mentioned anything on it recently. I've still been hoarding all my Vault keys for a long time too. I've actually been hoarding all my vault keys for a little over a year. And I've been hoarding my seals since they said they would add new guardians about 3 years ago. Yeah, I've still been holding all of them. Or was it 2.5 years ago? I think it was 2.5 years ago, actually. But it was summer 3 years ago. Which is 2.5 years prior to now. But they were supposed to add more guardian troops for pretty much half this history's game. And they finally did so as of Monday in this most recent patch. But they did it 2.5 years late. And I've been hoarding seals since then for that moment. Which is kind of funny because now in the current state of the game, you can almost do all of it just with major blues, and you didn't even need to hoard them. However, if you did hoard them, you need about 40-something thousand seals in order to do them without any orbs. If you don't want to use any orbs, if you're still trying for Zugov or something. I believe, I did the exact math on it earlier, but I believe it comes out to approximately 45,000 seals you need or so. And about 45,000 seals will get you every new Guardian maxed while using 0 blue orbs of Ascension. I'm probably just going to be using the Orb of Ascension method, though. But yeah, I've been hoarding Vault Keys for about a year, or a little bit over a year, because they've been mentioning that they're going to do a rework for that, and then never have. So in about another 1.5 years, they'll probably do the rework, haha. If the Guardians are any indication. It's something they said they would eventually do, and then it kind of went under the radar for such a long duration of time, and then out of nowhere they kind of added it again and brought it back in, or brought it to the game. And that seems like the same thing that's going to happen to the Gnome rework. It's going to not be mentioned for a very long duration of time, and then out of nowhere it's just going to come in a patch. Seems like how it's going to come. Similar to how Guardians were not mentioned for almost 3 years, and then they just came this patch. Finally. Better late than never. Grab that. Get herself a double. But they are a small dev team after all. But our team has gotten slightly bigger over the years. But they're still a relatively small studio. I wonder what else they actually are working on, though, that they're not telling us about. Because I feel like they are working on something that isn't just Gems of War. Because they were working on the Puzzle Quest HD remake a little while back. That released, obviously, a few months ago. And we didn't know anything about that until it happened. It pretty much came out of nowhere. And it's like, hey, we were working on the HD remake of this thing. I feel like they're working on Puzzle Quest 3, and they're just being really, really secretive about it. Like, I have almost 100% confirmation that they are. Because they released the HD remake of that, and Surian's still very busy. And what else would he really be really busy with if it wasn't another game? Because to my understanding, gaming is like his only job. Like anything related to gaming. And he hasn't made a new game for 5 years. Gems of War was his most recent new game, unless you count the HD remake of Puzzle Quest, which isn't really a new game, it's just the old Puzzle Quest reskinned and given a bunch of new quests and everything. Because I'm pretty sure it even still uses the same engine and everything. Because I don't think they recoded it with Unity, I'm not sure. Oh, what do we grab here? We'll take that over. Grab the other double. Get our other double on that. And they're dead. What kind? Oh, sorry, I missed the question. What causes the random jewel drop on fights? What do you mean by that? The random jewel drop? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do you mean from cascades, or do you mean the actual resource of jewels? Or something else? I'm not sure what you're referring to by that. Because no longer do you get 1 gem from 7 times Cascades. Not sure if you were playing back all the way back then, but ever since Treasure Hunt was added to the game, no longer do you get 1 gem from a 7 times Cascade. Oh, the Topaz, Ruby, Emeralds. The main way that you accumulate all those is through dungeons, daily dungeons. However, it is possible to randomly get one from a battle if you fight a Jewel Gnome. Jewel Gnome has a drop of 20 of each of the things. So you can get 20 diamonds, 20 of any of the colored jewels, 200 shards, and I believe it has a really rare 50 diamond drop. However, it's weird because its diamond drops are so rare that you actually get more diamond drops off the 2 to 5 drops that you get off a normal gnome compared to the Jewel Gnome. Mostly because the way that they're scaled as far as their percent drop rate comes out so that the 2 and 5 off of normal gnome is a higher diamond rate than the 20 and 50 off of the Jewel Gnome, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Because you'd assume the Jewel Gnome would have the best rate of jewel drops, but it doesn't. It's kind of weird. But yeah, it's from Jewel Gnome. It's a relatively pointless amount, though. You can get way higher jewel amounts by doing the colored jewels, by doing pet battles. A single pet gnome would end up giving you around 50 to 100 of a colored shard. Because assuming you do the entirety of the pet battles, that's about how many you would get from doing it. So it's a really, really poor amount, the amount that Jewel Gnome gives. It's the worst gnome in the entire game. Because they valued it so badly. Like, it could potentially be good, but it would need to be like 100 of each of the colors. So that's more in line with what a pet gnome is, except it gives it instantly rather than having to do a bunch of the pet stuff. But it would need to be at least 100 color, and the 20 to 50 diamond drops that it has needs to be way higher rate than it currently is now. Also, for whatever reason, they give really small amounts of anything that can be crafted into any kind of other resource, like those rates and the or the writs, I mean, and the what's the other thing? The shards. Those shards for crafting diamonds and stuff are so small. You only get 200 from a Jewel Gnome, which is only the equivalent of basically 2 diamonds, which is basically less than a normal gnome's 2 diamond drops, because that's likely where you're going to be using them on anyways. So it's basically 2 diamonds that you have to spend 20 souls into in order to make into 2 diamonds, which is even worse than 2 diamonds, which I already thought was like one of the worst drops on normal gnome, or among one of the weaker ones. It's relevant to some people, but still a pretty small amount regardless. When is the next gnome event? Yes, it's the weekend of Christmas, which is slightly bad and good. It's bad because some people might be busy because of the holidays, but it's good because some people might not have work because of the holidays. But yeah, I will be leaving for most of the gnome event. I'll be there that Friday for when the gnome event starts. However, I'm leaving on to Chicago in right after that. So we'll do the Friday morning stream that Friday during the gnome event, and then we're gone. But yeah, I believe it's Friday the 28th, or sorry, Friday the 27th. 20th is Saturday. I keep thinking that because I leave that morning. I leave at like the middle of the night at like 3 a.m. or something. Oh, let's see. We'll take that. We'll take that. Grab the other one. Good morning, Nessa. Welcome. Am I going to prepare some pre-recorded videos? Yes. I haven't started on that yet, though, but I need to. And I need to soon, because that time is fast approaching. It's only 2 weeks from now. I haven't pre-recorded anything yet. I normally wait till the week before anyways, but I do want to start a little bit earlier just because I feel like I will slack off if I don't. I want to make sure I get at least a couple of them down. We got to have a summary video of 2019 going over, I guess, best teams of 2019 that became viable as of new troops that were added to the game. Other than that, probably have a tier list video. That worked very well the last time we were gone, because I had one of those go up the last time I went to Chicago. We end up doing the tier list for Mythics. I'll probably make an updated one for Mythics as well as make one for Legends. And maybe we'll do a third one too. So we'll see. Definitely want to cover those two at least. An updated Mythic one and a Legend one, which we haven't ever done. Legend one will take like 3 hours though, because there's a lot of Legends in the game. Hopefully that video records properly. That'll actually be the longest video I've ever recorded ever. And hopefully it won't mess up at all. And I'm not talking about a stream, I mean like an actual video being 3 hours long. Which will be the longest video I've ever done by a margin of like 2 times, or even almost 3 times. Because I believe the longest video we've done previously was the tier list for Mythics, which I believe was around a little over an hour. However, a tier list of Legends will be like 3 hours long. And the main reason for that is there's like 100-something Legends. Like even if we spent 1 minute per Legend, I believe it comes out to 2.5 hours. If we spend 1 minute per Legend. Which I feel like on average we would be. Pretty sure some people will just skip to the end. But since we won't be streaming during that time, I'm pretty sure some people will watch it out and just treat it like a stream. Where we just go over every legend in the game. And their viability. How will you do faction on Delve if you complete floor 500? Pure faction, we're going to be running 2 of the rare into 2 of the legends. We're going to be running the 2 rare that has the 65% score reduction into the double legend that has freeze and burn while also having a decent amount of cast damage. And we're just going to run that team for it, most likely. Also heard some people mention just run 4 of the rare, which probably would work, but I want a little bit more diversity in the team if we can than that. So I guess you could theoretically get away with 4 of the rare. 4 of the rare has 65% score reduction, and it does stack multiplicitly with the 25% score reduction, which comes out to a 70-something% score reduction, which is pretty decent. It's almost like a Gargotha level tank as a rare, which is obviously pretty solid. Plus he has a life steal, which makes it even better, since he can actually use that life for really high score reduction. Only problem is he has 0 spell reduction, other than gaining more life, which is technically spell reduction in a way, indirectly. I mean, do you just repeat floor 500? Yes. To do pure faction, you basically just repeat the 500. The conditions that you need to do to get all factions done, there are 4 things you need to do. You need to go and get the horde level of the kingdom, of the faction to 100. That you can do by throwing treasure at it. Generally, the way that treasure is used is earlier on in the game, you just tend to throw all of it at them. But once you get a little bit later into the game, the order that you should do them in is you use the bags for the first 20, you use rings up to 50, and you use chalices up to 100. Earlier on in the game, you pretty much just use all of them until you get all of them to 100. But if you're doing any amount of post-100 faction upgrading, you tend to prioritize your treasures that way. With the common up to 20, the rare up to 50, and the ultra rare up to 100. And just get every faction max that way. But yeah, it is important to get that. That gives 500 points. The next 500 is from getting all the way to 500. Or sorry, the next 1,000 is from getting all the way to 500. Just simply getting there without any other conditions. Just simply getting to 500 will end up giving you 1,000. Another 500 is from doing 500 Deathless. If you're earlier on in the game or you don't have the amount of gems to be throwing like 2,110 gems at the event like we just did for this one, if you don't have that many gems on reserve because you're not later in the game yet or you're still using gems to try to get mythics, which a lot of people still are, of course. If you're not at that point where you have that many, you tend to just do pure faction at 100. The reason for this is 100 is the lowest pure faction where you would still gain a decent benefit while it's still being excessively easy. I highly advise always doing at minimum level 100 pure faction if you don't intend on doing anything higher up, like 500. Basically, 100, 150, 200, and 500 are the only relevant ones, with 100 and 500 being the most relevant. 100 being the lowest that is the viable, and 500 being the max that you'd eventually want to get around to some point into the future. Though it's something that you only do in end game because it's really expensive and relatively hard to do due to either requiring a lot of resources or due to requiring a lot of decent troops. Or sorry, not due to requiring a lot of decent troops. Duh, pure faction doesn't require troops. But, you know, you require a lot of stats. So I guess it technically requires troops in that regard because you need the troops for kingdom upgrades. But anyways, but yeah, you just run the battle again, essentially. You can even technically run Deathless and pure faction simultaneously. And a pure faction, what it basically is you have to use the 4 troops from the faction. You're only allowed to use them. You are allowed to repeat them. So you could use literally 4 of the same one, or 2 and 2, or 2, 1, 1, or however you want to run it. But You do get a full bonus if you use one of each. However, with how high the stats are when you're doing 500 pure faction, that's not as relevant. And as long as you're using one of or any of the 4 from the kingdom, from the faction, it'll count as pure faction. You're not allowed to use hero though. Or you're allowed to use hero with any colored weapon for all the other battles. It does not count towards pure faction. And if it did, it would make it so much easier. However, it isn't, so it's much harder. So you just complete 50 delves with faction troops, regardless of what level the delve is? No, that is not the case. You have to do it based on the level. It is only based on the highest level that you do. Every single one of the delve-related things is based on the highest faction that you do. So, for example, we just completed out 470. So you'll notice over here that our things are based on 470 right now if we go over to the faction. But it only takes the highest one that you've ever done it at. So if we go over here to the most recent faction, that's not the most recent faction. It's literally the exact opposite side. If we go to the most recent faction, it only takes the highest number we ever did for that. So right here, the highest we've ever done for this delve, obviously we just completed out 470, so it shows 470 for both of these. However, we haven't done any pure factions, so it just shows a 0. However, if we were to have done a pure faction at 100 twice, it would just show 100 here. It would not show 200, because it takes just the highest that you ever did. So for example, if we did 470 here again, it wouldn't just make this 500 instantly. It would just take whatever the highest we've ever had was. So for pure faction, you simply have to do it at a very high level, or it just takes the highest value that you've ever done. So if you do 100, it will just count as 100, but if you keep doing 100, it will not increase it. It'll just simply take the highest you've ever done. So there's no point in doing multiple pure factions of the same type. You just have to do it at a higher amount. So you tend to do 100 and 500, or 100, 200, and 500, but or just simply go to 200 and just sit there, or 100 and sit there, or even just do 500 and sit there, which is what we've been doing lately. Because with the potion effects that they added a couple months back, you can simply just buy with gems the things, and we have enough excess gems and enough of a gem accumulation that we can easily do it every month, since we don't need to worry about using gems for mythics, since we have every mythic in the game as of currently. But yeah, it only takes the highest value you've ever done. You can't just spam a pure faction at a lower level and get it increased, unfortunately. That's also why you don't see me running pure faction that often, because you theoretically only have to run it once per delve. You also technically only have to run deathless once per delve. Only running 500 deathless is the only thing that technically matters, assuming you're going all the way to 500. Every other one we go deathless is only for convenience of speed. It is not actually required for points, since as long as we deathless 500, it counts as if we deathless literally everything, because I'll max out our points for deathless. No, it is not automatically 10 points per completed delve. The only reason it looks like we're gaining a bunch of points per delve is because we're constantly moving forward. If we were to keep doing the same room over and over again, let's say like level 200 or something, it will not increase our amount of points. It only increases the amount of points if you actually move forward. And the thing that's making us move forward is we're gaining at minimum 20 every single time we move forward, because even if you don't get deathless and you don't do pure faction, you will end up getting 20 points. Because moving forward a floor is worth 20 points. And you'll notice that many of these times when we go and claim our chest, we're actually moving up 30 points. And the reason for this is we're moving up a level in deathless, which counts as 10 points, and we're moving up a level just in general, which counts as 20 points each time. However, that only applies if we're actually moving forward. If we do the same level delve twice, it will not give us the points. It will the first time, assuming we move forward. But if we go and do the exact same level again, it will not move forward any amount of points, because it only counts the highest you've ever done. It does not count it per delve. You still get loot per delve, but you do not get renown per delve. You only get renown when you go further in any of those categories, either in just moving forward, in deathless, or in pure faction. And all three of those can be done simultaneously, though it is not advised doing them simultaneously, as doing pure faction deathless is very hard for most factions. Normally you do the two of them separately. Oh yeah, let me go hand out a code. I said I would do that earlier and then completely forgot because I got sidetracked and then never did it. Let me go do that right now. Because I'm probably going to wrap up the stream once we hit 500, which we're almost at. I'll be there very soon. Let me go hand out the code. Code time. Let me go grab one. I forget if I marked last night's one. Let me assume I did. No, I didn't, because I'm almost guaranteed I used this, but just in case, let me double check. Almost 100% I used this last night. It was the one that began with 7. Yep, we used that last night. That's what I thought. So it's this one then is the next code. Let's see. Here you guys go. Here's the redeem code. Use it on gemsofwar.com for the game code section. Same place as always, or simply click the link in the description right over here. As soon as I get it there, 1 second. And there you guys go. There is the redeem code. Use it on gemsofwar.com. Click the link to use it. Give the same reward as always. 2 treasure maps, 1 gem key, 200 souls, and 2,500 gold. Where'd it go? There it is. Same loot as always. And it's only usable on PC mobile version. And your invite code can be found underneath your settings menu. Whatever your game says in the bottom left of the settings menu right over here. Whatever your game says there. And there we go. Just claim all this. And that's our redeem code combined with some of the stuff we got from faction. And let's go do more faction. Got 3 to go. 3 floors to go. Well, technically 2.5 at this point. Yep, no problem, everyone. No problem. Hopefully get at least 1 more Valraven. Otherwise, I believe we only have 1 attempt on Deathless. I mean, on Pure Faction. Which I'm pretty sure we can do it in 1 attempt. However, it's always good to have a safety attempt in case something gets messed up. Or in case of a disconnection. Which is very rare, but you never know. Or in case I accidentally go on the mobile device and it ends up ruining our 1 battle again. That was annoying when it happened earlier. Apparently, opening Gems of War on another thing like mobile ends up ruining the connection thing, because it makes it think you're playing on 2 things at once, even if you didn't actually initiate a battle, which is very annoying because it counts the entire delve as lost once you get disconnected, which is something I did ask for them to kind of fix before delves ever came into the game. However, to this day, there's still nothing for it. But I guess they didn't do that because they thought people would exploit it to reset it, which kind of makes sense. But I did mention it before it was even introduced delves into the game. Many things, none of which they actually fixed. But one of those things is if you disconnect during a delve, there is no way to like stop that. Like you automatically lose the entire delve if you disconnect during a delve. And you lose the entirety of the delve and that whole sigil or scroll thing that you used for it. I'll take that down for now. Grab the red over. That's definitely not the only problem delves have. But that has been one of them that has been present even prior to it being introduced to the game. Yep, no problem for the code, everyone. Enjoy. You're playing Gems of War on Switch. I did for some time. The Switch version I honestly love because I love the mobility and everything of it. The thing I hate is that it's about like 9 months behind update-wise compared to every other version of the game. And it only gets like every other update rather than every update. And with those 2 combination of factors, I personally don't care for it as much compared to just playing the most updated version of the game. But for people that don't really, that haven't ever really played the most updated version of the game, they probably barely even notice or don't even notice at all. But I noticed it a lot since I play Gems of War every single day in the most updated version. So, I don't know, it just drives me crazy that the Switch version is so outdated. It probably doesn't bother most people who play it, but it does bother me. This is why I don't personally play it. But it is probably one of the better versions of the game, just in the sense that it's on Switch. And the mobility of that basically makes it both a console and a mobile game. And it still has keyboard support too. The only thing it doesn't have is mouse support. It has keyboard support and it has obviously controller support. And it has touchscreen support. And you can use it like a mobile device with a big screen. Oh, sorry, what was your question? What was your previous question? My bad, I didn't see it. How will you do faction-only delve if you complete floor 500? You mean, do you just repeat? I already answered that. Your question is being misunderstood. Allow me to clarify. To get 500 points in Deathless Pure faction, how many delves do you need to complete? Just once at max level? Yes. Technically, yes. To complete out both of those, you would only have to do 500 and nothing else. You do not need to do Deathless on any other faction. And you would not need to do Pure Faction on any other faction. If you don't intend on doing 500 Pure Faction, you should go do 100 Pure Faction. just because that's the best value you can get if you don't intend on doing 500, or you don't intend on doing it yet, at least. You want to at least do it on 100. But yes, you only have to do the highest one. So Deathless, while you generally want to go Deathless every single delve, just because it increases speed, because once you lose a troop, you have it lost for the entirety of the delve, you theoretically only have to Deathless 500. You do not need to Deathless any other delve. You naturally do, obviously, just because you just win without losing something normally. But if you do, it doesn't matter, because only 500 has to be completed, and it counts as if you did literally everything up to 500. And same applies to Pure Faction. It only has to be at 500, and then it's done. So even if we died right here, it wouldn't matter, as long as on 500 we didn't die. As long as we still win the battle, that is. Obviously, we would still have to have at least one troop alive to win the battle. Because you still have to win. But this team's really good at not dying. It's probably one of my favorite teams that has ever existed in the game. Among one of them. It reminds me a lot of how the game used to be when the game first launched. Like how easy it was to infinite loop. There were so many different ways you could infinite loop in early game. I mean, when the game first came out like 5 years ago. As well as 4 years ago even. However, most of those infinite loops were nerfed from the game. But now, as of recently, they've actually been adding some infinite loops, like Vespera, which isn't perfectly infinite, but it's pretty close, and Truffle, which isn't infinite. However, it can be built into teams that are infinite. Also, problem: we don't have enough sigils, do we? We didn't do Pure Faction. Was that 490 or 500? Did I just do 500 and not even pay attention? No, I think that was 490. Yeah, that was 490. So let's go do 500, and then if we don't get a Vow Raven here, we need to go spend an additional 200 gems. Which means we would have spent 2,310 on this event. Which isn't too bad, I guess. For a Pure Faction plus all the loot we get along the ways. It could have easily been done with 5 tiers if we would have camped a couple of them more in order to get another Vow Raven. Who knows, maybe we'll still find a Vow Raven here. Hopefully. We have 4 battles. Hopefully one of those 4s will have it. Also, we have to be really careful not to die, otherwise we have to go do this battle again, Deathless. Luckily he's entangled. We have entangle at start, plus we have entangle every skull, so we should be fine. And we can normally get looping before he does anything. And we already have infinite loop. We already won the battle. Just need to apply the damage. They still need to nerf Gob Truffle. Oh no, I kind of hope they don't. But I feel like he does need like an ever so slight nerf. However, no nerf will make him not viable unless they just completely make him useless. The only way they can make him not viable is to make him useless. Like, they could increase his mana cost to 20, and he'd still be pretty much equally as viable as he is now. Slightly less so, but still pretty high up there. Because he'd start with 10 mana rather than 8. Like, see, right now, he starts with a mana amount where he needs 9 mana, right? Because he starts with 8 and he needs 17. So that's a 9 mana, right? Yeah, so he needs 9 mana. If they increase his mana cost to 20, he would only need 10 mana. It's only technically a 1 mana increase, assuming you start with half mana. If you're doing a elemental thing start. But even if you're using 20%, I believe it's only a 2 mana increase as far as how much you actually need to get. It's either 2 or 3, I forget what it would come out to. But regardless, even that wouldn't really do much. Because you'd gain so much excess mana that he'd still pretty much be exact same. But I feel like if they were to make any change, increasing his mana cost to 20 and make him the second highest mana cost legend would probably be the change they would make if they were to ever change him. And that wouldn't nerf him to a point where he'd be useless, but would at least make him slightly less viable, at least. That would kind of kill him for teams that aren't this team. But in this particular team context, it would at least be a little bit more balanced. I feel like that would be the change if they ever touched him. He was originally going to be a lot weaker than this, though. He was originally not going to have a gem spawn, and instead he was going to be like almost a Gob Truffle, or a Queen Gob Truffle, or not Queen Gob Truffle, a Queen Grapple Pot. It was originally going to be a lot more like Queen Grapple Pot, in that it has a damage boost ratio off of poison and disease. That would end up making it lower damage when not boost ratioing than the Grapple Pot, but higher when it did have boost ratio. And that was basically going to be its entire ability, a full AoE into an extra turn that got boost ratio based on poison and disease. But last minute, instead of having a damage boost ratio, they changed it to a mana accumulation boost ratio, in which it has the gem spawn. And when they ended up doing that, they just added the gem spawn and they added a boost ratio to that gem spawn, which just made it absurdly good. Without that gem spawn, he'd be a rather average troop. But with the gem spawn, he's among like one of the top 10 in the entire game. Potentially even number 1. Like, there's an argument to say that Gob Truffle is the best troop in the game. Not sure if I would exactly do that, because on his own, outside the context of this team and Forest Troll, like if you just used him and like a bunch of random options, he wouldn't be as good. Though most things wouldn't be. But he's really dependent on a few other troops to function. Forest Troll being one of them. In most other team contexts, he's actually rather average if you're just like dumping him into a random team. But in combination with Forest Troll, you can infinite loop. And by infinite loop, I mean actual infinite loop. Like, if you're not frozen, literally never ending your loop. To the point they could have infinite stats and you would still be able to kill them the entire time. But there we go. We have completed it. There's our last 30. And that is level 500 completed. Now what we'll go do is, I don't know. Should we do Pure Faction tomorrow or what? I don't know. We'd have to spend 200 more gems. That hurts. It hurts. We'd have to spend 200 gems if we want to do it today. Later, tomorrow night. I mean, tonight, I mean. It's either tonight or tomorrow night. Oh, no. We might just do it tonight and buy the 200 gems. Or if we do it tomorrow night, it saves us 200 gems. Anyways, there's the pet. We got ourselves the Dr. Snow. And this is a Stormheim pet. How many Stormheim pets are there now? Let's see. Let's go to pets. Go to Stormheim. How many is that? Where is... That's not what I want. Stormheim, where are you? How many pets do you have? Is this your second pet, or do you have more than that? I feel like the kingdom has 3 pets now, if I had to guess. It's either 3 or 4. I believe it's 3. Yep, 3. We have ourselves the Dr. Snow that just came in yesterday, which is the pet that you get for getting 2,000 or higher renown for the faction of Frostfire Keep. And you get it maxed once you have 2,500 faction, but you get a single copy of it at 2,000. And the easiest way to get to 2,000 is to either go all the way to 500 or to do 100 pure faction and then go to 470 or somewhere around there, which is pretty much like going to 500 already. But, you know, you get it around that area. But doing 500 with 0 pure faction and doing 100 delve into 500 deathless does give you enough for pet, which is what we end up doing there. And then you just have to do pure faction to 500 to get it maxed. But, yeah, there's that. There's the giant bonus pet, which is somewhat recent, which is why it's only at that low of a rarity. And Penguin, which has been around for a while. Actually, it was the first pet we ever got, as you can see right there. We named them Skipper. When pets first came out, it was the first pet we were ever able to obtain during the pet update, which was like, what, a year and a half ago or so? I actually forget when the pet update was. I know it was sometime last year. But, yeah, a pet update. And that was the first pet we ever got. Wait, were pets this year? I don't think pets were this year. No, they were definitely last year. I need to go double check. I actually completely forgot off the top of my head. Starting to lose track. How many times did you buy the pack? 5. I'm currently up to 2,110 gems spent. If we bought another one, it would be 2,310. Do the delves tomorrow then? Yeah, I am kind of leaning towards tomorrow, to be honest. Because the faction seems pretty easy to do with the stats we currently have. Because we're going to have like a 70-something% score reduction. We pretty much have a infinite number of Gorgulthas we can use for this event. We can use 2, 3, or 4, depending on how many we want to run. I think initially we're going to run 2. But, yeah, I think we can get away with 2. But he's going to be so absurdly strong for Pure Faction. It's probably one of the strongest Pure Faction rares we've ever had. Even just Pure Faction troops in general. Just because of how ridiculously good he is at not dying to skulls. How many never mind, I already answered that. Am I upgrading the pet? No. I've been leaving a lot of them unupgraded in order to use them for Kingdom Stars. Because we've been needing to do a lot of 20 pets for Kingdom Stars, and I want to make sure I don't run out of pet food. We might start upgrading a bunch of our pets one day, though, once we feel like we might not need it for a Kingdom upgrade. However, a lot of Kingdoms around, I believe Kingdom 14 star or something, end up requiring a second level 20 pet. And to do that, we need a lot of pet food for those. I believe it's 15, actually, right? No. What level do we need? Oops, wrong kingdom. What kingdom am I looking for? Which one of these is that 14 stars? Isn't that 14 stars? No, that's 16 stars. Yeah, you need it for 17 stars. For 17 stars, you need to have 2 pets from the kingdom at level 20. And while not too many kingdoms currently have the capability of reaching 17 stars, it is going to be something that isn't going to be increasingly more needed. And it costs a lot of pet food to have 2 pets from a kingdom at level 20. And we still need that for quite a few kingdoms. Some of it doesn't even exist for some kingdoms, though they're not close to 17 stars yet. But into next year, we're going to be getting increasingly more 17-star kingdoms. I believe currently only about, I'm not even sure how many. I want to say 2? What's every 17-star kingdom that currently exists? I know that Darkstone is one. It might actually be the only one, now that I think about it. But Darkstone is a 17-star kingdom. I believe that's tied at the highest. Currently, I see a bunch of 16s. I do not see another 17, though. Is 17 actually the highest? There might be another one, but I just don't have the second pet for it, possibly. But let's see. Let's check every 16-star and see if one of these could be. Nope, it still needs another troop. Plus, we don't have the pet. Let's see. Zhejian still needs another troop. We do have the pet upgraded, though. Sword's Edge still needs another troop, and we do have the pet upgraded. And, oh, okay. What was the one that we... Oh, so let me go check this. And this one is, we don't have the pet upgraded, but we do have, and we still need a troop. So let me see. I want to go check 2 of these. Leonis Empire. So we need to go get Cactus Kid maxed, which is going to be hard. Because he is so not upgraded. So we could spend like 2,000 or something gems on that. Or just wait till it gets a faction. And what was the other one? I believe it was Pan's Veil. Why is Pan's Veil not upgraded? I guess I could go do that now, because this is eventually going to be needed pretty soon. Let me go send this to Max. Let's see. Yellow pet food? How much yellow pet food do we have? Not that many. I don't want to use up too much white pet food. But at least we know we can instantly do it if we ever need it. So I'm not going to do that yet, because I'm not sure when next Pan's Veil event is. But the next time we get a new Pan's Veil pet, a new Pan's Veil troop, we are going to need to make that upgrade. Let me see. Is Pan's Veil within Invisible Sight? Let me go to the troop page real quick. I want to double check to see when Pan's Veil event is coming, if we even know when it's coming. We got an update recently, so we could probably see a couple months in advance. So let me double check to see if Pan's Veil is coming anytime soon. One moment. Wrong page. That's the full troop menu. I want the troops that are only coming in spoilers. Loading, 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 loading. There we go. Okay. Show only spoilers. Okay, Pan's Veil, are you getting an update anytime soon? Nope, doesn't look like it. Pan's Veil is not within visible sight, and we can currently see up to the date of January 27th. Oh, okay, so they're definitely doing a mini patch mid-January. 100%. Like mid to late January, we're 100% getting a patch, because we can only see up to January 27th currently. But yeah, no Pan's Veil is coming within that time, so we don't need to upgrade it yet. We have at least a month before we need to upgrade it, if not longer. So I'm not going to do it now. However, we can do it within like a single click of a button if we need to. So not too big a deal. We'll do it then. No rush. How far is Cinemirage? It is actually the most unupgraded kingdom in the game. They were considering adding all of the Apocalypse troops to Cinemirage. The reason Cinemirage is so unupgraded is it was the most recent and last kingdom ever added to the game. It was added about 1 year and 4 months ago. So basically a year and a half ago. It is the last kingdom that was ever added to the game, meaning it has the least amount of troops, since it has the least amount of time to gain more troops. And every kingdom that they ever added ended up getting added with about 8 to or so troops or so. And with that being said, it always had just a really small amount. Currently only has 12 since then, in the last year and a half. And yeah, it's a very, very small amount. It is the least upgraded kingdom in the game, and I believe Drakzoom is the second most unupgraded kingdom. And the reason for this is, which is kind of funny because it's actually higher starred than a couple other of them. But as far as an actual number of troops, it is the second lowest. And the reason for that, it was the second most recent kingdom added to the game. It was the one that came prior to Cinemirage, and they were the last 2 kingdoms ever added. Cinemirage was the absolute last, and Drakzoom was the second to last kingdom, which is why those 2 have such a low amount of troops at 17 and 14. 17 for Drakzoom and 14 for Cinemirage. Let's see. What class do you run for double Gob Truffle? I run Warden with it. The main reason why I run Warden is mostly because of where's the team? The main reason I run Warden is mostly because it has a couple things that make this team work out very well. Overall, Warden is considered one of the worst hero classes. However, this team composition single-handedly has made it particularly viable. It has Hunter's Mark every single extra turn, which helps clean up if they end up getting a 25% revive or something, because that allows you to do 2 times skull damage. This category is useless, though it is on most hero classes. This ends up entangling on first slots at the start of battle. This is particularly relevant because at higher level delves have really, really high skull damage to the point that they could 1 to 2 shot you. And this will make it so they have 0 attack for the duration, or for a couple turns when you're starting off, which helps to make sure that they don't kill you. And by the time that expires, or even has a chance of expiring, you can normally get another skull on Farstroll, and Farstroll gets to entangle every skull he does. And in combination, it basically allows you to perpetually keep the enemy entangled so that they can't do any skull damage to you, meaning they can only kill you with cast damage, and you can normally win before they can ever get a cast on you, more often than not. So it ends up working out pretty well, since skulls they can sometimes get beforehand, however, you can zero out their attack. The next one is Leaf Storm. This is pretty relevant because this helps do the loop. You can normally get looping between the first 4 turns, and Green Storm just makes it even more consistent to get a loop going even quicker, and just makes it so you basically never stop the infinite loop, even at a higher chance than normal. So it ends up working out really well. Next one's pretty useless, however, you get 5 extra armor for all your green allies. This obviously doesn't do much, however, none of these really do much, so you just go with that. Alternatively, you could use the Goblin extra 2 attack, however, Farstroll is not a Goblin, so you normally just go the extra armor, and just hope that that kind of gives you a little bit extra durability, but that basically is pointless, this tree as well. The 5 and 40 tree basically do nothing. Banish is one of the other really relevant reasons, and one of the main reasons why you use this, in combination with Entangle plus Green Storm, is the fact that you get to dispel all enemies on 4 times 5 times matches. This is particularly relevant because Gob Truffle, as your main damage source, does damage to all enemies simultaneously, and this is hard countered by Submerge. However, Submerge is hard countered by Banish, or by Dispel, I mean, and you can end up dispelling it by simply taking an extra turn while having this perk. So a single extra turn will go and get rid of it, and given that you're infinitely looping with Gob Truffles, just simply infinitely looping will automatically get rid of your the Submerge on the enemy, as well as any other positive status effects like Barrier and such. And other than that, all 3 of these do nothing. So unfortunately, it's 5, 40, and 100 tree are useless for this team. But you mainly use it for the Entangle, into Green Storm, into Banish. Also, its final perk is useless too. All it is, or its traits, I mean, are useless too. All it is extra armor. So in total, you get like 10 armor for your Gob Truffles, which obviously doesn't do much, but better than nothing. But it ends up working out nice. Also, I should probably go change that team to the other team that we were using. I didn't care for this one as much. It worked, but not too huge a fan of running it that way. That's not how you do it. Gob Truffle. There we go. Gob Truffle. Put him in there. Boom, boom. There we go. Oh, I need to go change the banner, though. We need to go use the banner that Gob Truffle actually came from, which is the Amethyrax banner, or whatever it's called. It's from the Amethyrax faction. Banner, 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 banner. And there it is, because they're in alphabetical order based on faction. I mean, based on kingdom or faction, depending on which one they are. There we go. So Warden is just a better archer. No, archer is better in like 99% of teams. In that team context, is like one of the only teams that Warden is actually viable. If it wasn't for that team, Warden could be considered one of the worst hero classes in the game. However, that team just happens to utilize Warden very, very, very well. But if it wasn't for Gob Truffle, Warden would be one of the worst 3 or 5 hero classes in the game. Probably worst 3. But that team alone, if you just look at the viability of it in that context of that team, it's arguably like the top 3 hero class. But if you ignore that team, it's like lowest 3. It's kind of weird. It's so viable for one really specific team, yet it's almost useless in every other situation. But yeah, Archer is generally better. It is generally the best green hero class, because it has half mana start, it has instant kill on 50% on its skulls. It has a natural 50% mana start that you don't even need to set a perk for. It just automatically has it. And it, at one point, was the best hero class in the game. In the current state of the game, it's probably closer to 5th or 6th. But I believe it's the strongest green hero class. But it really depends on the context of your team, because Warden in some teams can be better. However, it's technically a brown hero class, even though it's really associated with green. And Orb Weaver... Actually, Orb Weaver is purple. Never mind. But yeah, as far as green hero classes, yeah, I guess Archer actually is the best green hero class now that I think about it. Still is. is because of how many utilities it has to use. It's really well-rounded because it covers a little bit of everything. Between Entangle, between having one of the best summon combos in the game, if that's ever relevant. Has some dodge if you want to run it that way. And it has, of course, 2 really good perks, 15% instant kill and 50% starting mana. Though do keep in mind with Bullseye, there is a really big counter to it, and that Skull Reflect and the Reflect mechanic will instantly kill you if you go and use Bullseye on the enemy. So if you go and take a Skull and you trigger the Bullseye and they have any amount of Skull Reflect, even only 25%, or if they have Reflect mechanic on them, you will instantly kill yourself. So do be very careful with that if you do use Archer. The same doesn't apply to Assassin due to how the game functions with it. However, it does apply to Archer because it basically just increases its damage to infinite off a Skull, which means you just get infinitely reflected off it. What are talking Tacet? Warden is like the best hero class for Green Guild War Day. I don't know. Archer for Green Guild War Day does everything Warden can, but better. Because you'd want to use 15% instant kill. Almost no one runs Reflect, so you don't need to worry about the Reflect thing I just mentioned. And you can just use it in first slot with something. But no, I personally feel like Archer is way better in a Guild War context. Unless you're using Truffle. Like, if you're using Truffle, it might be worth it. Just because if you're using Truffle and the enemy has Submerge, you have to run Warden because you need Dispel for Submerge. But unless you specifically need Dispel, it's not worth running Warden. Only if you specifically need Dispel is it worth running Warden on a green team. In any other situation, you run Archer. But anyways, guys, any other questions or anything else to mention? Otherwise, I'm probably going to start wrapping up for now, and we'll be back, of course, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I guess we won't do Pure Faction tonight, just because it will save us 200 gems, and I guess at this point we might as well just wait till tomorrow night. I will definitely cover the video, though, since we won't be doing the thing tonight, though. So we'll still mention Pure Faction off of the Delve itself, because we can just do it there and mention it for the video and do it that way. But we won't actually do it till tomorrow night, I guess. Theoretically, we could try it without potion effects, but I'm pretty sure, even though this kingdom is somewhat okay without potion effects, I don't think we could end up getting away with it at only 100. Random question from Jan S. Does a troop exist who steals souls accumulated by the enemy? Just like a steal thief or a bandit? No. There's currently no way to steal souls from the enemy team. Nothing has a steal soul mechanic. There's a few that have steal gold, but nothing actually has steal soul, oddly enough. But you can even type it in and it shows up as none. Like, you could type in steal gold. And oh, never mind. That didn't actually bring up any. Probably because there's a number in between during most of them. But there is no steal soul. Actually, that's not a good one to type in either because I've typed in so many. But no, there's nothing that steals souls. There's, I believe, 3 or 4 that steals gold. Bandit, that one blue-purple epic from City of Thieves, and I think like 2 others that are completely useless. Really, that one from City of Thieves is like the only really relevant one, I feel like. But yeah, there's nothing that steals souls. Not even like not any relevant ones, just literally none. It's kind of weird, given that they have multiple options for stealing gold, but none for souls. They probably will eventually, but as it currently stands, there is none. How about just posting that team to the YouTube comments? Sure, which one? The Truffle team or the Pure Faction? I'll be covering it all in the video, too. And we'll have them all in the description of the video. But here's the one right now. Oh, oops. I can't copy it that way. 1 second. Let me go open a browser. I forgot. This program sting doesn't work anymore. So let me go to my stream through my main computer and go to my own live stream, showing up on the home page. Also, don't forget to leave a like. We're currently at 18 likes. Oops, so ads playing on my stream. Good job. Make us the monies. There we go. But there's the code. But there's the code for the Pure Faction. Let's see. Might as well just get all of them in there. There's Pure Faction. Actually, I should probably say what they are. Here's Pure Faction. There's the Pure Faction team. Next up is the Truffle team, though most of you probably already have that set as a team. It's a pretty commonly used team. Here's the Truffle team. And that's pretty much the only 2 you really need. And I'll probably still show the Tesla team because why not, just to mention it. Some people wanted me to mention it, so I figured I'd mention it. This one. It's personally, I would say, only good up to about 200. But some people prefer using it. I personally don't care for the team as much. I originally did Teslas when I first started doing factions. However, I eventually dropped them after a few weeks or so, just because I personally didn't care for them that much. But some people really like using using it. But if you do, it's fine. I personally find it to be a bit slower than other options. And given how cheap it is to run Truffle Team, it's technically even easier to get than that Tesla team. So, are you paid for video or viewing time for video? I'm paid mostly through donations that people give us, of course, through the donation link or through the join link or through Patreon and other things. So a good majority of it comes through donations. But as far as money I make specifically from YouTube, it is based 100% on ads. So it's based on a combination of view duration on ads, if people actually click the ads, and that's pretty much it. If they click the ads and if they watch the ads. Even if they skip the ads, I believe it counts for some amount. However, less than if they were actually to engage with the ad. But no, as far as YouTube, money I make directly from YouTube. The only money I make directly, specifically from YouTube, is ad revenue. In no other way do I make any other money directly from YouTube, unless it's from other side stuff, or like donations and such. And that doesn't come out to too much. It normally comes out to a couple hundred to several hundred per month or so. It can vary quite a bit. Quite a bit recently, it's been quite a bit lower. I think it's only been like a few hundred the last several months, because YouTube's been having ad revenue problems with all the controversy they've been having, especially the whole Kappa thing that happened recently. That's still a thing. And they've just had a hit on ad revenue since. But yeah, it's not per video. It's per, it's not even based on view time. Viewing time does increase exposure on YouTube, same as likes and the same as comments. Like comments, likes, and view time all help with YouTube advertising yourself. So for example, when I went into my own thing, I was like the first thing that came up in my own notification things that my stream was live. And that's mostly because view time has a very, very heavy effect on, or view duration has a really heavy effect on exposure on YouTube. And streams get really good view duration because a lot of people will watch for the entire stream. And even people who don't watch for an entire stream might start watching a stream, leave it open. And since streams tend to go for a couple hours, that counts as like a lot of free view duration whenever that does end up happening. When someone either leaves it open in the background or they just completely forget it's even on. Sometimes if you like mute it or something. But view duration is actually pretty important on YouTube. It's one of the main factors that they use for videos. Like if it should be like shared. It's that, comments, and likes. They're the biggest three factors. However, I believe view duration and view time are the biggest factors. They're two completely different stats though. View duration is the percent of the stream that a person watches, whereas view time is the actual amount of minutes that a person has watched. Both of them are very, very useful for YouTube advertising your video more on YouTube itself, or the chance of you popping up on front page, and the chance of you, if you search a term related to the stream or the video, of it actually popping up. Those two stats are really ridiculously important. Let's see. If you click a Tacet playlist, would you earn more cash? Theoretically, yes. If you literally just clicked a random playlist I have and just left it running forever, that would technically make me more money, though it'd be literal cents. So the amount you'd be spending on electricity would almost be more than the amount of money you'd be giving me. So it'd be probably just be more efficient just to donate. But theoretically, yes. That would actually give me more money, though we're talking like literal cents at that point. But anyways, I'm going to be heading out for now. Any other questions in there that I missed? I don't believe so. Archie, there was one other. What does Pat Boy say? If you don't use hero, does the hero class matter? You're pretty sure no. I believe the mastery still applies from your hero class. However, it's only 20, and it makes such a minuscule difference. But if I'm not mistaken, the plus 20 that you can get from a level 20 hero class, the plus 20 to a mastery, does apply to the battle even if your hero is not used. This is mostly relevant once you're beyond like a few hundred levels. However, if you're a newer player, I believe that's still relevant. However, anyone who it would be relevant to are to a point where they probably wouldn't need to worry about that advanced of a mechanic. And by the point that you can use a mechanic like that, setting a hero class specifically just for its plus 20 mastery, that probably wouldn't be needed because a plus 20 mastery is barely a 0.1% extra chance to surge off that color. But theoretically, if you're running like a pure faction, let's say you're running Purple Guild War, and for whatever reason you're not running hero, Using a hero class that has plus 20 purple would theoretically help you ever so slightly, by giving you about a 0.1% higher purple surge chance if you're super late in the game. Maybe even slightly less than that, but it theoretically would assist you. It would have almost no effect, but technically would have some effect. But anyways, guys, I'll be heading out for now. Thank you so much for stopping by. We'll be back, as I mentioned, about 7 hours from now, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll be going over and probably just messing around with some explore farming, probably, since we'll probably do pure faction this Sunday then. And yeah, hope you all have best of luck with the faction. It is one of the easier factions if you're using some potion effects, which obviously, since it's the event, you probably would be if you're going that far. So you might want to consider going for it if you're at a point where you might want to get like your first 2,500 if you don't have one yet for the achievement. This one definitely wouldn't be a bad one. Do keep in mind, it does cost upwards of about 2,000 gems if you want to go that far. A little bit less if you want to go and do every single battle, though that'd be a little bit more time consuming. But you're looking in around the 2,000 frame or so. We end up spending 2,110, 2,310 if we were to go do it today. We'll just wait till tomorrow to save 200. But it is a little bit pricey. But if you've been looking to get a 2,500, this is probably one of the easier ones that you can do at the moment. So it's worth considering, just because you basically have a Gorgoltha as a rare in the context of all the potion effects and everything. So it ends up being decently easy because of that reason. And then you can just lifesteal like crazy and make sure it never dies. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll catch all of you later. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for stopping by.